Let's see what we can grab in the dark recesses of the mini bag that I can't get my hand in on the deal, and I'm throwing stuff out.
Okay, so this one, I dig it. It's okay. This one is called Skip the Gym by Alme, which I've been skipping for a while. I've been skipping forever, actually. I've never been to a gym. I've been to one, but I never did anything when I was there, really. I've never had membership either. I feel like I'm failing at life a little bit. Not a lot, just a little bit. What's your thought? You hate gyms, though. Right? But you know what? I did wake up early this morning and I did some yoga. I feel great.
It's about time.
The what? The hell are you trying to say?
See, you wanted me to give a thought so you could crucify me.
Are you calling me fat?
No.
Okay. I was just wondering. National days. Okay. I don't know what this means. I didn't have time to really look it up. National CBW Day. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
Okay, so then we'll go with National Coffee Day.
I saw that today, and I'm thinking now, if there was ever a day that there should be the National Coffee, every day should be National Coffee Day. That should be it. That should be 365. That's the only thing you should have.
Just coffee?
Yes.
Well, yesterday was National Beer
Every
Day.
day.
So you're getting rid of National Beer Day? What's VW?
Have no flippin' idea.
Foreign Wars.
Veterans of Foreign Wars. Oh, that's very good. Why didn't they spell it out?
No, I don't know. That's why I clicked on it and I looked it up. So thank you for all those that served in our country. That's a big one. Why is that celebrated more?
Well, that's because they have 27 days and you can't even figure any of them out.
National Coffee Day, though. They should give veterans free coffee.
Yes, they should have. That would have been a great gesture, yes.
That would have been.
Starbucks wouldn't because they're communists.
Why? Are they?
Yes.
Oh, we're going on Facebook. Happy National Coffee Day.
And Veterans of Foreign Wars Day.
Get off my mouse.
The Funky Slide Guitar Music comes on every Monday through Friday live at 5 on IE Newswire and YouTube and Facebook on that. Going across the board on that. You hope? What do you mean you hope? I hope you are. On that, and I just clicked. Oh, here we go. Yes, let's see. It does. I think we are on.
Hey, Brandon.
There we go. Yeah, Brandon's clicking on.
Don't read Brandon's comment. Every time.
Wow. Oh, that.
We got it. See, this is why maybe.
So you'll
Everybody
have
else.
to tune in to IE Newswire Facebook on YouTube to find out what Brandon wrote that Stephanie does not want you to see. Because
One of these days I'll get it right. I make sure everybody else's
Because-
stuff's working and
Roy
What?
knows the first law of holes when you're in one. Well, don't get in one. The best law of holes is don't even start to get in one.
yeah, I fell right into that one.
Of that. Oh, it's you're gonna get the best pre-live and post-debate coverage right on the show with Steph and Roy on that. We're gonna, of course, in a little less than an hour, it's gonna be the first face-off between Sleepy Joe Biden and El Presidente, Donald J. Trump, of that. And we're a couple of interesting things. Like Trump called for Biden to be drug tested on that and of dementia. And I heard a doctor today, and he said he went through the 10 signs of dementia, and he said Biden has 8 of them.
No way.
Yes.
I probably have like a solid 3.
No, you're not even close.
Really? Okay, I'll take it.
He went through that and said the guy is I mean he's starting to do that. If again the New York Times broke the stuff supposedly on Trump's tax returns and stuff, and I hope Trump did not pay anything. I hope during the two Bushes, the odious Bushes, Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, like I said, those four presidencies were a monolithic 98.7% the same thing. So for those of you that say, "Oh, you're for Trump," or I call them as I see them, and I've been saying that. And you can go back and look at the written record; it's probably pretty long. Even before all the social media, there were websites and stuff, and you can see what my comments were. And I want to see how many of you have criticized a lot of the ones that were on the side of the policies or the stupid stuff that all them presidents on down did. And all the lying and conniving and crap they pulled of that, especially George W. Bush. He campaigned on we're going to get out of the Middle East. As soon as he got into office, boy, we started flowing money over there like crazy. Mr. Oil Man, who said we would never be energy independent. Well, it took Trump to do that, along with all the other Klondikes and that and all that. Joe Biden made $15 million.
Wow.
Right after he
Doing what?
after he got out of office, doing speeches. Can you say bribe?
I need to get paid to do speeches.
Because they're crooked as all hell.
I'm
And I
just
want to
saying.
see this. Joe Biden.
Where do I sign up at?
Okay, he made $15 million. You know what? Under Republican Dwight D. Eisenhower in the 50s, the highest tax rate was 90%. Jack Kennedy, when he got in, lowered it to 70. Why didn't Joe Biden, I want to see, did Joe Biden donate $13.5 million of that 15? Because who needs that kind of money?
I do.
They're campaigning against that. You can live pretty darn good on $1.5 million. And why didn't you donate 90% of it, Joe, if you're for what you say you are? Because you're a lying, squirmy piece of crap. You have been ever since in political life. You think you're a tough guy, threatening people and everything else. I want to see you in a dark alley by yourself and start challenging people when you don't got the Secret Service or armed goons guarding your back. If you're really a badass, then prove it. If you're a mouth-off artist because you're a U.S. senator and you can get away with it, you're chicken bleep, bud.
Ooh.
There's one president who actually called, and probably doesn't call, it gets close to that, and that's Donald J. Trump. He calls people out for what they are. And like I said in the deal with it, and I've been on, especially, what really ticked me off was Manny Perez down there at the Board of Supervisors when he was chairing the meeting last time, and basically gave us all the finger. Ignore the facts, ignore the science, ignore everything else. We got control over your butt, and we're going to put our knee on your neck. That's what Biden wants to do. They run false narratives. And like I said, if Trump did something wrong, if he violated the tax laws, then he can pay a fine or whatever penalties are on that.
I think he's too smart to do anything
The New
like
York
that.
Times did not allege that he did anything illegal. So I hope Trump did not pay any taxes at all. And feed the government beast that's screwing us for decades and is still doing it today. And I want all of you that got a home mortgage deduction, kids deductions, I want you to refuse them. If you were on this side of saying Trump can't take a deduction, I want you to take zero deductions. Because let's be honest.
Wait, deductions are like when you get money back?
No. You got You got 4 kids. You
Right.
get so many deductions for each child you have. You
Right.
get to write off the home mortgage interest you pay on your home. Now what? Us that don't have home mortgages at home homes get penalized for that because we are responsible and don't borrow money.
But can't you write off property taxes and stuff like that?
Well, Trump took care of that because he was punishing California because we were doing stupid crap, so he eliminated that when he got in office.
Really?
Which I support. If California and Becerra and
You
Gavin
should be able to
Newsom
write off your taxes,
are
though.
going to sue at every instance Trump when he gave them everything they wanted on COVID, and they're still suing and saying what an a-hole he is, then screw him. I would do the same damn thing. California, if you, like he said, we're not bailing you out anymore. You want to do stupid, then you pay the freaking price.
Hi. I'm keeping my kid deductions, though. I need it.
Well, you should. I mean, everybody is entitled to take advantage of whatever the law says. If you can take the deduction for that, and when you're in business, you have a lot of latitude and a lot of stuff to do, a lot of different things that the average person that's punching a time clock and filing a
Right.
W-9 does not get to do. Does not mean you do not pay taxes. Everybody pays taxes of some kind of somewhere on that. Just look, the income tax is only one of about 10 gazillion that you pay. So, again, if they want all of you that are criticizing Trump, I want you to take 0 deductions if you're going to be honest. Because if Trump took legitimate tax deductions, and like you said, he has the money to hire the finest tax attorneys and do everything.
I said that? I said that.
Well, pretty much.
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing.
No, I did. I
Thank
remember.
you.
You're welcome.
That, and God bless him. I would do the same thing.
But I personally, I would think that he is too smart to try to pull any type of sneaky business like that. He's not that dumb to go and do something to where he knows everybody's watching him and checking every little freaking move that he makes. Every fart's probably being investigated.
Yes.
I'm just really? He's not that dumb to go and do that. Don't you think?
And I don't doubt that he's probably played in the gray areas of the tax law because it's kind of like racing. If it ain't written in there that you can't do it, we figure you can. And the sanction bodies or the rules makers will sometimes say, well, we don't like that anyway and kick you out or whatever. And then, that's part of the game. But, if you follow the rules 100% of like they're written, like they say, there's cheaters and losers. And you know what happens if you're doing, everybody works the system. And, everybody's going to interpret when the IRS tax code looks like the War and Peace novel. What is it, 17,000 pages or some ridiculous amount? The IRS tax code.
I don't know.
You're not
You're speaking my language.
Yeah, it's like this thick. You can interpret a lot of that stuff a lot of different ways. And
Right.
A lot of people play in the gray areas or bend it as hard as they can. Sometimes they cross over the line. Hey, that's you pays your money and takes your chances. If it's done, if you broke the law, then you pay the price.
Right.
If it's determined that. If not, if it was a legit deal, then God, like I say, God bless you. And like I said, anybody that's criticizing him or anybody that takes any deductions, any legitimate deductions, I want you to take 0 deductions because let's be consistent about it.
Maybe.
Well, you're not criticizing Trump, I don't think, for
No,
taking
I'm not.
So that's what I say.
Go Biden, but
Right, yeah,
Whatever.
you're going to take advantage of everything you can on the deal to pay less taxes because that's going to be more money in your pocket.
Brandon wants to know what your shirt says.
Bail, BEA, bail enforcement agent
There you go, Brandon.
of that. So,
Neon Love Machine. Trump has a tax attorney that is 100% liable.
well, yeah, as my understanding is ultimately you're the one that signs the return. The tax attorney does that. But even so, whatever. He did not make these decisions and just say, I'm out to cheat the government. He took, what he thought were legitimate until proven innocent, until proven guilty, what were legitimate tax deductions on, of that, like everybody else does.
And again, I don't think he'd be that dumb. I would be shocked to find out that he did something shady.
I think I think they have fined him over the years of that, and probably practically everybody that's been in business.
But I mean, like,
especially that
super
large
shady to where
Yeah,
it's not like a
right.
general, like, I didn't write off the pencil, or, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like something dumb.
Yeah, and that's what I say. I mean, there are cases where
Not that it's okay, but, and I think if
Right.
he did get caught, he would definitely fess up and he would
he
correct
did.
it.
Yeah, I mean, he did. I think he has. There's some of the whatever tax shelters that he was involved in were determined not to be legal or whatever.
Wait, what?
But he did not. He did not willfully go into them. It was presented as a legitimate deal. The government subsequently ruled that they were not. And so, you had to square up or do whatever to make those happens every day.
Does it? Has Biden done anything like that? Roy?
I don't know, but like I say, if he's crowing about it, I want him to donate. Why does he need $15 million after he's walking out for making a 45-minute speech? It's like that whatever goofball X that got 25 grand for an hour's worth of speech at a school district to tell everybody what a bunch of assholes they are.
I want that money.
I mean, it's the
I'm in
same.
the wrong business.
Well, yeah. If you want to be a crook, I mean, that's legalized being a legalized crook. It's legalized corruption, is what it is. Paying Joe
All right,
Biden
well, never mind.
and Bill
We'll be broke
Clinton and the
forever.
Clinton Foundation, what are they worth? Hundreds of millions. God, Clinton got $20, $30 million a year for like 10 years after that. And the Clinton Foundation and the fraud to going that, profiting off of your public service of that. Bill Clinton, Joe Biden are not worth 50 or they're not getting paid a 50 or 100 grand for their brilliant oratory skills. They're being paid legalized bribes to get crap done mostly in Joe Biden's case that China wanted done, and Russia and every other foreign government that's been screwing us over. And you know who's turned the tides on that?
Who?
Donald J.
Who?
Trump. He's
That's
the one
right.
that's gotten us out of the bad China trade deals where they've been stealing our intellectual property, the NAFTA and GATT trade agreements and all that. Trump's the one that's been turning around decades of Biden, Obama, Clinton, and the Bush twins that have been screwing Americans over immensely. What are they? $3 trillion we've invested in infrastructure in the Middle East. Built them brand new roads and gave them the equipment to maintain
Who
it.
did?
We did.
Why?
Because
Where?
we're stupid.
Why do we care about that?
In
What about
Afghanistan, they built them a $100 million highway for 100 miles, gave them all the equipment to maintain it. 10 years later, it looked worse than when they started.
Of course.
That's what your government, establishment Democrats and Republicans, which is the likes of what I have mentioned, Pelosi, Clinton, Obama, Bonnier, Bushes, Mitt Romney, John McCain, and a whole host of them other yo-hos, that's Democrats and Republicans, folks, that have been screwing you. And you allow them to infiltrate and screw you over in both of these parties. And any of you, in my book, anybody that is registered as a Democrat or Republican is against America because they have systematically screwed over America and not only California. The Republicans have no balls. They would not stand up, and they let the Democrats run this once great state right into the ground. Gerald Parsky and the Bushes put them in there when they got in, when Reagan got out, and they've been downhill since. You stuck us with Arnold Schwarzenegger instead of Tom McClintock when you sat there and lied and said McClintock couldn't win. And the Fox News poll at the end of that recall election said if people would have voted how they wanted, McClintock would have beat the 134 other candidates because he would have got a majority of support. But the Republican Party said do not vote for Tom McClintock because he couldn't win. They sat there and lied to you because they knew Arnold would do their business. And their business is screwing over you.
Me?
Everyone.
How do we
So
change it?
you're complicit in my book if you are registered as a Republican or supporting the Republican or Democrat Party. There's no time to say they're salvageable. They're not. They are so corrupt. They are so evil. It's time to burn them down. And your support, if you are supporting them, then again, they're not supporting you. You're supporting them. This is what they've done to you. Look at the establishment that doesn't even like Trump. The Republicans, the never-Trumpers, the Bill Cristols and all the Jose's that are out there that are running Trump down on that. Again, neocons that are teed off because he cleaned up the trade agreements. He's pulling us out of the foreign conflicts we shouldn't have been in. He's actually working for the American people and not against them like you all, you establishment Republicans and Democrats have been doing for decades.
Neon Love Machine writes in, Obama gave 3 times 747s full of cash to terrorists in the middle of the night. Really? Neon Love Machine knows the stuff.
We've been telling you this. We've been shouting this for decades.
Have you? I haven't heard you. Now I do, though. Loud and clear. Every day in my ear. I think that people really are coming around, though, and starting to really pay attention. Even my oldest, I think it was yesterday, was like, Mom, who are you voting for this election? I'm like, what? He's like, who are you voting for? It's coming up soon. He's like, I think you're probably going to vote for Trump. He's like, I don't really know who Biden is, but I like Trump. But I'm like, hey, at least my 10-year-old's kind of catching on everything.
Well,
Maybe
then
he's
they
gonna
should
dead.
It's
But I don't think
never
that
too early to start.
I think politics should never be involved in school, but then at the same time, I feel like it, in a way, it kind of does because kids at home might not be getting that. What?
I don't.
But
no,
but then bringing politics in school, that's just like.
no
whole
politics should
door.
be in school because it's a basis of our country.
But people don't know how
And
to communicate like adults, though, to bring politics into school to teach the children.
Then
Because
we
then it
should
becomes
get
a
rid
thing.
of the school board members and administrators that can't handle the freaking job. If they can't figure it out, then they need to be working somewhere else, and we'll find somebody else that knows what the hell they're doing.
I mean, will we?
Yes, we have done it. We had political discussions in elementary school when I was going to school.
You probably started them.
Oh, I was happy as a clam when that came up. I'd take on the whole freaking class.
I bet you probably would while standing on top
And I'd
of your
kick
desk.
their ass, too. Ask my 5th grade teacher, Chuck Orr, if he's still around.
Were you teaching the class?
That's what he said. So, again, and it should be. And like I said, it worked. It did work. And if the school teachers, administrators, and school board members can't figure it out, then they need to quit. Or they need to be fired, or clean them out. Now's a good time since we've turned the whole school system upside down anyway. Now's a good time to clean it all out and fix the darn thing.
Neon Love Machine. Right then, Roy knows the goods. I hope you don't get upset that I say your name like that. I think it's great. What?
Here we go.
You got like
prove
6 minutes, buddy.
To prove the point, well, I want to get this one in before we're going to bring on Tom Del Baccaro out after the bottom of the hour, and we'll get his thoughts on. We'll get somebody who's halfway sane to talk about the debate instead of me. But
Yeah. That'd be great.
Florida schools reopened en masse, but a surge in coronavirus didn't follow a USA Today analysis finds. Now I want y'all
Dun dun
who've
dun.
been, oh, we can't open the schools, coronavirus, oh, Gavin Newsom said we're all going to die.
At least he's cute, though. I'm just kidding. I'm so gonna get hit right now.
Well, I hope it's worth it being an enslavement, because that's what
No,
what
it's not,
cute
really.
gets you.
It's not.
Florida, Again, USA Today, not part of the vast right-wing conspiracy. The dominant USA Today that hates Trump. And probably Ron DeSantis because he's a freedom and liberty governor, opening up the schools and opening up the theme parks, Disneyland, SeaWorld, and
Did
everything
you hear about
else.
Disneyland?
What?
They're laying off like
Of course,
I don't even know how many thousands of people.
because we have a stupid ass governor.
We do. That's why I'm kind of disappointed in Disneyland. You're freaking Disneyland. You own everything.
And Ron DeSantis said it a couple of weeks ago. He was said to say he was in the meetings with them, and he said, "Well, what? They're getting things. They're opening up, getting them to." He said, "Well, what about California and Disneyland and SeaWorld and all the execs?" Says, "We don't know. We're wondering that ourselves. Newsom don't tell us crap, except that we're shut down." That's the state of California. That's the Gavin Newsom. Oh, you little girlies love.
I hate that voice. Next time you do it, I'm cutting your mic. Kidding.
And that's what it is, and there it is in the USA Today. All the kids ain't dying. Duh. Like it has been for 6 months. We should have never closed the dang schools down.
Ah! Scaring me.
It was stupid. And
What?
all of you that are supporting it, and the people that are supporting it, why don't you admit you're stupid?
Mean.
You were wrong. And you called us out that we're right and told us we didn't know what we were talking about. Where's a little bit of honesty coming out? You know what? We blew it. Maybe we should pay more attention to the facts and the science of what is really there instead of this fantasy land a lot of you want to believe that is, has, or never will exist.
What's the fantasy land?
The fantasy land of, it's going to rain money out of the sky. Everything is free. We're going to take it from somebody else.
I don't know what to tell you, baby bro. How many months? When's the 7-month anniversary of our 4-week Ride It Out? 2-week Ride It Out?
Oh.
Ride the wave or beat the cure. What the hell was the slogan thing? I don't remember. It was so long ago.
Yeah, you can't even remember that anymore. They're driving us so crazy.
How long have we been in lockdown?
Yeah, since we've been in lockdown since March 18th of 2020.
When did the plane land in Moreno Valley, though? Because that's kind of when
it was right in that time.
Everyone seemed to go crazy.
Yes. Oh, I knew that. Like I said, I got a bad feeling the day they switched that plane from Ontario to March on that. I intrinsically I said there's something not right about this whole enchilada, and here we go so close to 7 months late. Well, actually, I think we just went by the let's see, okay, April, May, June, July, August, September. We just went past the 6-month one, so next October 18th will be the 7-month anniversary of the stay-at-home orders. Gavin Newsom first in the states of that. Quickly, I want to read this from that in the USA Today article. Many of the schools that have been able to successfully open have been implementing control measures that are part of the managing spread of these schools. Dr. Nathan Beers says of that. Yeah, they're not hardly doing anything in Florida on this thing. But they still try to spin it. They're trying to spin it all across the deal. But, but this is the one part of doing. As the weeks tick by and the surge of school link cases did not materialize, requests to return remote learners to the classroom have surged in some places. Duh. Because they were lying. Remember, they said they're going to kill us all. The kids are going to die. The teachers are going to die. It's the freaking teachers' unions all across the board. They were protesting it in Florida, but they got much more power in California, and they will not let it go because, tell me why. Tell me I'm wrong. They're too lazy. They don't want to go back to class.
No. You think no. Teachers? You're insane.
Then why aren't they protesting?
You're wrong on that one.
Because
I don't know why they're not
the
protesting, why
facts
people
are
aren't.
that they should be in class, the kids should be in school. We shouldn't have any of this stupid stuff that they're talking about. There should be 30 kids in a classroom teaching right now. And if you ain't got guts enough to say that, you are part of the problem.
Hi, Sean.
Hi, guys. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, I have my mic on today.
All right.
We think so.
For now.
Steps forward.
Wait till I
Yeah.
call somebody.
No, it's
Wait till we're live on the air.
Yeah, pretty much. At least you know me by now.
of that. No, it.
There's no way that teachers would rather be doing what they're some, yeah, probably like the lazy ones that aren't doing anything. I personally
One
don't know
minute.
of any.
One
But-
minute.
What they're doing now is so much harder than being in the classroom.
Jingle palette.
Oh, I was getting to that. Stop telling me what to do. Stop saying stupid. You're offending Lucy.
I'll say stupid for a half hour if you get me wound up
Yeah, true.
of that. And I call it as I see it
30 seconds.
of that.
Clearly.
And again, the time for being nice is over. Like you said,
You know, and I totally agree. Even Dr. Kelly was, having the same.
6 months
the
of this
same
crap.
thought.
Yes.
And when Dr. Kelly kind of has the same thought, Roy, whatever. But
All right, guys. Here we
You know.
go.
anyway.
Smartphone apps. Go to KMET1490am.com and download your free phone app today.
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not...
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday live on the Mighty Met 1490 KMET. On that, joining all of our listeners that tune in live at 5 on IE Newswire on that. And that might be the last time you're going to hear this, at least from me, because I might get shot because I actually pushed the dials.
He's touching my
over.
buttons and playing with my intro.
Of the deal, yes. And as you can see, I think I teed somebody off doing that.
No, it's all right. Take your show down here in a minute, but we got Tom coming up,
Oh, that-
so I
yes.
don't want to ruin it.
We talked about you're going to hear the best in the pre-live and post-debate coverage right here on IE Newswire Daily on this.
Greetings from Costa Rica.
There you go, Costa Rica's
Thanks for
turn
joining us.
of that, and we might be having to move there if things get that much worse in the U.S. of A., especially if the people are stupid enough to elect Joe.
Oh,
Biden
Edward writes,
president.
and remember, it was 2 weeks shutdown to flatten the curve.
Yes.
That's what it was.
Can you believe anybody that would believe anything, any of them, from Biden to hair gel to Cuomo and the whole lot of them, anybody that would believe anything that those Klondikes are doing, that you got to be insane. Like that. I mean, talk about lying. Oh, it's only going to be 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and we'll do. Here we are 6+ months later, and we're still, we're no further ahead. I mean, duh. Do you think this stuff is ever going to end? No. They might throw you a crumb. They might give you a cookie and hope you'll go away. And, I'm beginning to think a lot of you will. I mean, there's still people out there defending this. Defending hair gel. Supporting Joe Biden.
I think if they want to, they should be able. If they like Biden and they want to vote for him, they should. Why they're still backing this whole COVID thing is beyond me.
And if that's what you're doing, that's what you're going to get with the whole deal. I mean, if you want to be lied to, if you want gloom, despair, and agony on yourself and your kids and your grandkids, then keep doing, by all means, support hair gel and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and Nancy Pelosi and the whole Lorena Gonzalez and Manny Perez down here and everybody else, because that's what you're going to get. There is no other way around it. I mean, this whole thing, if this whole last 6 months of fiasco doesn't clue you in on it or convince you of it or what's really going on out there, I don't know what else will. I don't know what else. I don't know if God has to come down from the heavens and introduce Jesus Christ and say this is what's going on. I don't know what it is. I don't know what is going to trip your trigger to see the reality of the situation. And it's going to be very interesting on that coming up. And again, we're going to get the first and maybe only debate, who knows, of coming up here in a less than a half hour of Donald J. Trump and Joe Biden coming up on the...
Diane writes in, good evening, exciting times tonight. Trump is going to crush him.
Well, we'll see. The one thing, though, is, Trump really hasn't debated anybody for, since the election 4 years. And, and it is, and I think they ran a poll one time that the first debate on the re-election of a president, I think only one time, and I don't remember who it was, only one president won it, because you're so used to not doing it, you get out of practice on it. So it's going to be interesting to see how Trump does, because really it's been almost 4 years since he's really been on the debate circuit, because when he ran for president, I mean, he had over a year of it, with going through all the debates with, starting out with 16, 20 candidates in 2015, and then he approved it down. He probably did 20 or 30 debates up to the presidential election in 2016. He's really done none since then, in the pursuing 4 years. So, I'm curious to see how good he's back on his game of doing that on the debate, because typically has shown the incumbent president running for re-election typically loses the first debate, as it's been shown.
But how do they decide who?
Well, just who
do they do numbers or
polling?
something?
Yeah,
It's such a
polling of
rookie.
that, who won that, the reaction, of how that. I mean, it's not. It's not like winning a football game 27-14 or something that you can say, yeah, that's the score. But I mean, just let's say the perception of who.
But how do they decide that? I feel like all of that's kind of just baloney. How are they oh, you know what? Stephanie was really for Trump. They don't know that.
No, it's just kind of a...
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, it's just a
But don't they-
perception. And then you can go back if somebody... And usually on the second debate, the incumbent presidents usually does really well, because now they're back in the groove, prepared for it, da-da-da-da-da. So then it's mainly how that, and you can go back in history and look at how, okay, this debate went this way and the polls moved this way, and then, the next one was a totally different vibe, and you've seen the polls move the different way. So you can, based on those analysis, you can kind of say, okay, this is what happened on that. But that's kind of the history of that. So yeah, I'm curious to see if Trump can beat the odds and actually have the perception where he wins the first debate out on his re-election bid for president of the United States. That'll be very interesting on that.
Neon Love Machine writes in, if they are for Biden, they have done zero homework on all of this. And he is saying that Biden is playing senile. He doesn't have to admit to everything.
Agree with that on the deal. Hopefully we'll have Tom Del Baccaro coming up here on pretty soon to give his more sane pre-debate analysis on going on here of that, where we come on that, and hopefully I think we do. I think we have the guy. Man, he's probably on This guy's on media everywhere, got 27,000 websites, TomDel.com, Political Vanguard. He's a superstar on Twitter and Facebook and social media. You see him on TV shows all across the news, everywhere across the country. But most important, today, he's going to give the pre-debate analysis right here on IE Newswire with Steph and Roy. The world-famous Tom Del Baccaro, welcome to the show.
Hey, it's so nice to see you, especially Stephanie. And how are you? So listen, I think this debate is 95% about Joe Biden. I think we know what Trump's going to bring. We know he's going to tout the economy. We know he faces tough questions all the time. So we know within a reasonable margin of error what we're going to see out of the president. We don't know what we're going to see out of Joe Biden. He doesn't get tough questions. He doesn't have to answer for his records. He has cognitive decline. And in high stress situations, people with high cognitive decline, their responses are amplified. They become more edgy. They become single focus personality. I went through this for 10 years combined with my parents. So in my view, this night, all the pressure's on Joe Biden, almost no pressure on the president.
You think so? And I brought out, and I saw something, I can't remember who it was, but the incumbent president winning re-election, the polling and the perception was only one president since they've started the debates, sitting president won the first debate out because that. And my theory is they go, when they're running for election, they're doing, like Trump probably did 20 or 30 or 40 debates in 2015-16. He hasn't done any since, and most of them. So they're kind of off their game on the first one. What's your analysis on that?
He has to debate the press every day. There is no president that has given more access to the press, who asks ridiculous to very hard questions every single day, and he's got to respond. So whereas Joe Biden hasn't had questioning in months, not really since March, maybe April, one time, that were difficult, and he has declined since then. So I understand why that may have applied to candidates and re-elects in the past, but I don't see that as what's going on with Trump today.
And you do bring out a very good point on that. There hasn't been a president that I know of in our modern history since the invent of television, let's say, that's had as many press conferences, mainly due to COVID and stuff of that, he's been the most televised president in his presidency, in that got to be hands down bar by a gazillion hours than anybody else.
Yeah, and he gives press avails walking out of the White House all the time. There's not presidents who did that. Reagan didn't do that. Reagan's the guy who obviously did so well in that debate against Mondale for his reelect that you referred to. But there is no one else who's had to take the questioning. So Trump is battle tested. That's why I say you know what you're going to get out of him. We have no idea what's going to happen with Joe Biden tonight. And for someone who's had my experience with this issue, and, it's not like Joe Biden hasn't given us pause recently. Here's a man who referred to himself as Joe Biden. You do not say your own name wrong. He said 200 last week in soft questioning. He said 200 million people had died of COVID. These are not normal mistakes. And those are in easy circumstances. Now he's one-on-one. And what the president should do is be insistent. And he should put Joe Biden on the spot for what he has said in the past. I mean, Joe Biden point blank said he doesn't want his child to go to school in a racial jungle in response to busing. Trump should bring things like that up and force Biden to answer for his past. And that will unnerve him and could spin him out of control.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
but how much hate would Trump get if he did that? I mean, everyone would rip him apart in an instant.
But all he has to do is do it in a respectful manner. Because look, Trump's called bad names all the time, and he can say, "Look, you guys call me bad names all the time. but I've never said anything remotely like him saying he didn't want his child going to school in a racial jungle, yet he's not held accountable for those kind of things. And you know what? Joe Biden would probably deny ever saying that for reasons which I've alluded to. And then after the fact, that will become the issue. That's the kind of thing Trump needs to do tonight, to create a soundbite with lasting legs that puts the pressure on Biden and keeps it there in the days to come.
It is, and I mean, and I've heard this a lot, and I want to get your take on it. If Joe Biden doesn't wind up drooling on his shirt or something, is he going to come out the winner because of the expectations of him, as you pointed out, of his condition have been so widely reported? I mean, does the reverse effect if he doesn't do something that, or make a unmitigated gaffe or something go on, does he just win on that basis?
Yeah, I do remember long ago when Gerald Ford, they talked about him freeing Eastern Europe by basically saying certain countries weren't under the thumb of Russia or behind the Iron Curtain. So if Joe Biden avoids the massive mistake, will CNN declare him the winner? For sure. But nevertheless, I don't think by the end of the day he's going to come out looking presidential. Is it possible he does? I don't know. You heard people talk about putting certain drugs in him and things like that. That actually does not work well with people with cognitive decline. Those kind of things would amp him up, and that causes an even worse circumstance.
Yeah, I was kind of curious that, Trump coming out with the drug testing, and then even more importantly, and probably even, I would suspect if they were going to pull something, the electronic devices deal.
I'm wearing
yeah,
one.
See that? Yeah, you're doing that. Yeah,
just for tonight.
Yes, I'm cueing you in on what we're going to talk about. No, but basically of the whole deal of the last time with Hillary Clinton and Donna Brazile working for CNN and sending over the questions to Hillary and stuff like that, I don't put past the Democrats of doing anything.
Yeah, no. Look, if you look around the country today, what's happening with the mail-in voting, we have two now significant battleground states, or one battleground state, Minnesota, and then in Texas, where they bragged about getting up to 700,000 ballots. Sadly, the stealing of elections is within their realm of desire, and I wouldn't put anything past. But remember this: even if Joe Biden had something in his ear, that would cross him up, because they'd be talking while he's trying to think and talk, and that's a dangerous combo as well.
It is, and of watching Joe Biden, especially in the last 6 months, I mean, you can just see the precipitous decline in his mental cognitive abilities of that. It's been pretty pronounced, and you probably had more experience than me, but I've had some of the same experiences in my family. You kind of see that point where they're kind of slow, and then all of a sudden they just start falling down that cliff, and it goes really fast.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why you haven't seen him very much is because they need to be incredibly well rested. And that's why he hasn't been traveling in the last week, in my view. Nevertheless, the first 15, 20 minutes, he should be okay. And then as the night, that's why they wanted breaks every 30 minutes. And so we'll see how he does, having to endure, basically 80 minutes of debating.
You got it.
I'm excited.
Yeah, you get it. We're going to see how it works out and see how we'll play it back, and we'll see how all our predictions come out on this. Gave you a minute to wrap it all up. Tell them about all the great things you're doing.
Well, I don't know anything about that, but people can go to tomdel.com or Political Vanguard or my Facebook page. Join me on Parler at Tom Del, and we'll be talking soon. And say hi to Stephanie for me. Wave for me.
She's
see
waving now. We'll
Bye,
see
Tom.
you. Thanks for being on, Tom. We'll do it again soon.
Bye.
There you go. I mean, that's and two. I think it's good. This is probably the biggest wild card debate we've had yet, for all the factors and more that we've talked about. I mean, I don't remember we've ever had a presidential, get it down to basically the top two of that, where we're talking about the mental fitness. Well, they did a little bit in Reagan, but that came way at the end of that. But they talked about Reagan being, but he, in his election campaign and re-election campaign in '84, he was sharp as a tack.
Right.
Of that. I mean, and he did not show signs of that Joe Biden is. And again, it's not. That's what concerns me with Joe Biden is, like I said, especially since the first of the year, the last 6 months or so, you can just see the decline of Joe Biden. I mean, he's just, in my opinion, he's just not all there. And that's not a criticism of saying that. I mean, you can just see from the way he, the slurring of the words and not knowing, can't recall this, da 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 da. It's like, it's not, it again, it just concerns me that somebody in that condition, you're going to vote for them as president of the United States, whether you agree with them or not.
I think some people will vote just because out of spite for Trump, so they're going to go with somebody else just to feel like they got back at him when really you're only hurting yourself. Daniel writes in, the love for President Trump outweighs the hate by a landslide.
I hope you're right on that. And we're going to see, like I said, and Tom brought it out. The only thing that bothers me is this whole thing is the election fraud and this whole mail-in ballot thing. That
scares me.
Yes.
And then they're trying to promote on like commercials like, oh, I can track my ballot. You ain't going to go and track your ballot. I mean, let's be real. You're going to put it in the mail. How many people? I mean, some people will, but
that's what
the general population's not going to go and track their ballot with a smartphone.
Well, this is what I mean.
I hope they would, but
California,
I mean, let's be real.
Has sent probably 20 million or so registered voters a ballot. Well, how do you know? Again, an absentee ballot, as Trump said, is secure because when you request an absentee ballot, then they cross your name off the poll list. So if you walk into your polling place, they're going to say, oh, Roy, you were sent an absentee ballot. And you can insist or whatever, or if you don't have your absentee ballot, they will take your ballot, but it's called a provisional ballot. So they will let you vote at the polls, but they will put that in a special box. And then they will check to see if you sent a absentee ballot in. Now, if you send an absentee ballot in, they will destroy both of them. Because then
what happens to your vote? Do you get to vote again, or is that like considered like you?
Because you walked in there and said, "Oh, I didn't send in my absentee ballot, or I didn't get it, or whatever." Okay, fine. But if you wound up sending it in, and then you walked into the polls and did that, then they will destroy both of them because. Then they could be marked two different ways.
Right.
That or which one is it? Da 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 da. At that point, they don't know, so they just destroy both of them. If you walk in and they don't see that you have sent in your absentee ballot, then they will count the one you have at the provisional ballot. That's the checks and balances you have with the absentee ballot system. Those checks and balances are not in place with the mail-in voting system. So if you send in a mail-in ballot, how do they know if you walk into the poll and say, oh,
exactly,
I'm Roy Bleckert, I want to vote too, and I can vote twice?
Sorry, I'm reading a comment.
No, that's
Neon Love Machine says, take a photo of your ballot at the polls and to vote in person. But I mean, maybe we should just go like old school and just like prick your finger and get a blood sample and put it on there.
No,
why not?
It goes to the vote. And absentee ballot, even though I don't particularly like it a lot, I don't like the 30-day election cycle especially, because if you vote 30 days out and how many times have incidents come up or things have changed in 30 days of that, and you've already cast your ballot, you're done. I mean, if there's no changing your mind at that point, you're already done. But even of that, at least the absentee ballot system, and it probably needs some fine-tuning, I would shorten up the time of that maybe down to 2 weeks at the most. I would even go a week, but I'd go 2 weeks. I think that's 2 weeks is far enough out that you have time to get your ballot in, in that time frame, and then that usually like this, debates are over, most of the stuff, I mean, other than the October surprise or whatever things that come out, but you can't handle that. But I'd go 2 weeks on the absentee ballot system before the election to mail them in. If we did that, but in most cases, the absentee ballot system has the checks and balances in that you don't vote twice, you don't fraudulently vote, you don't vote absentee and you don't vote at the polls.
But what if you get, you probably already answered this, what if you get one mailed to your house, but you're like, you know what, I want to vote in person?
Well,
then what?
If you want to vote in person, then don't send in the mail-in ballot.
And then just shred
Unless
it?
you want to commit fraud.
Well, no, I don't want to do that. I'm just saying. Because I get the mailed ballot, but I really want to go and vote in person.
Right. So there's, as I understand
But are they going to have any polling places with all this COVID crap going on?
Well, they're supposed to, but I think they were trying to figure out how they could eliminate it, but that was raising too many hackles of people going in, but of that. But again, there's very, for the mail-in ballot system that is being widespread across the country. There's very little checks and balances to it. And Trump is exactly right. This thing is ripe for fraud of that. And this is a scenario I see possibly playing out on that.
But if there was going to be this whole fraud thing, don't you think they would have done it when he originally won anyways?
No. Well, no, this is what I'm getting to. I can see the point of, okay, Trump's winning on election night or 2 or 3 days afterwards. And then all of a sudden, as we start counting the votes, because, the registrar of voters have 30 days to count votes. All of a sudden, a box of ballots just showed up.
I remember that I think it was with Obama, wasn't it?
147.
Where boxes just kept randomly showing up places.
147% of them are for Joe Biden. I mean, the amount, because once the election is over on November 3rd, then you know where you got to make up the deal. Say Texas, let's say they try to put it up, but Texas isn't close. Let's say it's a dead heat in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Florida, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, swing states that's got this thing in limbo. And a few thousand votes one way or the other can make the difference. Well, now you know where you got to make them up to get that 270 electoral college votes. And man, there's nothing worse. You want to see explosion come on this country? Yes. You see, if this thing gets turned, if this presidential election...
Oh, I'm terrified. Even if he wins or loses, I'm like...
Yeah.
It's going down no matter what.
Yeah, if it goes...
I'm hiding that day.
If it goes...
I want to see some great fireworks, though, if he does win.
Oh, it probably will. If you see Trump winning and then it goes to this scenario on that, all of you stick with us. We're going to roll into the debate coverage. We're going to drop KMET 1490, but we're going to stay on IE Newswire, both on Facebook and YouTube, and cover the first debate.
And those on Facebook, move over to YouTube and we'll talk.
Yes, join us on YouTube.
Yeah.
You can get to see Neon Love Machine or whatever the heck his name is.
I love his name.
Neon the Love Machine or whatever it is.
Neon Love Machine.
Neon.
You gotta say right.
You said that. Yeah, you got that one down.
I totally do.
I give you that credit on that. So hang on, we're going to leave KMAT. We're gone from that, but stay with us. We'll be back with debate coverage here in a few seconds.
The proceeding was a paid
All right, guys, take care.
Bye, John. Stop yelling at me. Gosh. I'm getting off everything else. Hi, Josh. You joined us on YouTube.
Yes. Thank you, Josh.
Things hurting
Josh
me
is one of our longtime listeners on that have done that. Yeah, we're going to cover the debate coverage with the El Presidente, Donald J. Trump versus Joe Biden on the first and hopefully not the last debate. We're in a C.
What time does it start at?
6 o'clock.
Oh, I
Here
knew
in
that.
A few minutes
Well,
of that.
mean-
Of course. That's why you ask.
I know. That was me rushing you.
You didn't say, oh, the debate's going to happen at 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time.
No, I'm trying to get you to stop talking to put it up. No, I really didn't know what time it started.
That we've come to know you.
But you know what? I really am excited for this debate. Like, it's like my first year of actually like being into it. I'm gonna say caring.
Realizing they actually have something like this.
Yeah. Like, I didn't even know who president was. I can't even name all of them. I'm just kidding, but I really can't. I mean, I
Can you
knew we
name
had-
any of them?
I was really
besides
excited
Trump?
for Obama though when he won, but Trump and Obama, Clinton, Bush, the other Bush,
You're getting
and then
pretty
the
good.
dollar bill people. I'm just gonna stop talking now.
Who was the last president from California?
From California?
Well, actually, let's say
I mean,
that
Trump.
was it? No, right? Well, you could say he wasn't
Reagan.
actually born with
Duh.
Reagan and that. But actually, I guess Nixon would be the
Totally knew
first
that.
one that's actually born in California.
Is Trump from California though?
No,
Where's
Trump's
he from?
from New York City.
New York.
New York.
New York.
I'm a New Yorker.
Stacey writes in Trump 2020.
Yes, we
Kevin
are. on
Green
that.
has
Oh,
a
we're
question.
getting in. They're flipping this debate stage on right now. Of that, they probably got to do the herefores and wherefores. There's Melania Trump
Who's that?
taking her seat.
kidding.
Melania Trump.
I know. She's wearing a mask though.
Yes,
Wearing a
get
mask. Take that off.
can the mask, Melania.
It matches with her outfit though. I wonder how much that
Yeah.
mask costs.
Probably $10,000.
Probably.
You know, and it didn't even make a blip in Donald J's bank account. And God bless him for it.
Yeah. Smart man.
That's why he
Deserves every
didn't pay
penny
any
he has.
taxes. He can afford $10,000 mask for his wife.
It didn't cost 10,000. Probably 20.
I
be
bet you
real.
the outfit did.
Yeah, probably. No. Gosh, I hope not. What a waste of money. She
I
needs
don't
to
know.
shop at Ross.
Some of that stuff gets incredibly expensive.
Yeah, but it's all made out of the same crap. That's why I'm like, $300
I never
shoes?
did understand
Eh.
that. Yeah, though. Yeah.
I mean, $300 shoes, okay, maybe, but like $1,000 pair of jeans.
No, they got like $10,000.
$800 pair of jeans.
There's shoes and
I get my
stuff
crap at Ross, $12.
that go like 40, 50 grand.
Yeah, no.
Who was it? Imelda Marcos, who was the shoe queen lady from wherever it was.
But then if I get
Asia.
something expensive like that and I wear it, I'm going to spill something on it immediately. I'll
Oh, I
probably
do.
burn it somehow, not even being around fire.
Yes, like I say,
I
it would-
cannot have expensive things.
Me neither. I
They get ruined. My cheap stuff lasts forever.
Yes, no, well, it doesn't matter. I mean, like I say, I think if I pull something out of the package, it's got a hole in it or a stain or something, and then you don't have to worry about it. It's all downhill from that point. We got the after the fashion show division of the debate coverage of that. No, we're waiting for them to take the stage and kick this puppy off on the enchilada. That first presidential debate, a one-on-one of the two top candidates, Joe Biden and Donald J. Trump. Let's say, how long is it going to take before Joe Biden drools on his suit?
20 minutes and 48 seconds.
Wow. Well, we got to write this down. 20 minutes. Stephanie says 20 minutes and 48 seconds. So, okay, audience listening on YouTube and Facebook, are you taking the over and under on 20 minutes and 48 seconds before Joe Biden drools on his suit of that? When's he gonna say, "Come on, man"?
When's he going to fall asleep?
Yes. Oh, that would be classic. We could not. Oh man, would we be in seventh heaven if he's nodding off or does that? That might even be better than drooling on his shirt. That because of Trump with the sleepy Joe Biden. Would that not be absolutely classic? Chris Wallace looks like is sitting in the moderator chair, so we should be touching.
Oh,
this off.
Josh writes in 12 minutes tops.
12 minutes. He's going the under
Wow.
on the drooling
Right.
on the suit. Well, since Josh took the under, I'll take the over on 20 minutes of that. Looks like Chris Wallace is seated in on that. We're getting ready to go. As soon as we see him start talking, we'll flip on to the debate coverage the first presidential debate on that. Does Chris Wallace have the moderator's moment where he becomes the controversy of the show, or will he play this straight up? Here we go.
From the Health Education Campus
Enjoy.
of Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic. I'm Chris Wallace of Fox News, and I welcome you to the first of the 2020 presidential debates between President Donald J. Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. This debate is sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates. The Commission has designed the format, 6 roughly 15-minute segments with 2-minute answers from each candidate to the first question, then open discussion for the rest of each segment. Both campaigns have agreed to these rules. For the record, I decided the topics and the questions in each topic. I can assure you, none of the questions has been shared with the Commission or the 2 candidates. This debate is being conducted under health and safety protocols designed by the Cleveland Clinic, which is serving as the health security advisor to the Commission for all 4 debates. As a precaution, both campaigns have agreed the candidates will not shake hands at the beginning of tonight's debate. The audience here in the hall has promised to remain silent. No cheers, no boos or other interruptions, so we, and more importantly you, can focus on what the candidates have to say. No noise except right now, as we welcome the Republican nominee, President Trump, and the Democratic nominee, Vice President Biden.
How you doing, man? How are you? I'm well.
Gentlemen, a lot of people have been waiting for this night, so let's get going. Our first subject is the Supreme Court. President Trump, you nominated Amy Coney Barrett over the weekend to succeed the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the court. You say the Constitution is clear about your obligation and the Senate's to consider a nominee to the court. Vice President Biden, you say that this is an effort by the president and Republicans to jam through an appointment and what you call an abuse of power. My first question to both of you tonight, why are you right in the argument you make and your opponent wrong, and where do you think a Justice Barrett would take the court? President Trump, in this first segment, you go first, 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chris. I will tell you very simply, we won the election. Elections have consequences. We have the Senate, we have the White House, and we have a phenomenal nominee, respected by all, top academic, good in every way, In fact, some of her biggest endorsers are very liberal people from Notre Dame and other places. So I think she's going to be fantastic. We have plenty of time, even if we did it after the election itself. I have a lot of time after the election, as you know. So I think that she will be outstanding. She's going to be as good as anybody that has served on that court. We really feel that. We have a professor at Notre Dame, highly respected by all, said she's the single greatest student he's ever had. He's been a professor for a long time at a great school. And we won the election, and therefore we have the right to choose her. And very few people knowingly would say otherwise. And by the way, the Democrats, they wouldn't even think about not doing it. If they had, the only difference is they'd try and do it faster. There's no way they would give it up. They had Merrick Garland, but the problem is they didn't have the election, so they were stopped. And probably that would happen in reverse also. Definitely would happen in reverse. So we won the election, and we have the right to do it, Chris.
President Trump, thank you. Same question to you, Vice President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing this, and looking forward to this, Mr. President.
Thank you, Joe.
The American people have a right to have a say in who the Supreme Court nominee is. And that say occurs when they vote for United States senators and when they vote for the President of the United States. They're not going to get that chance now because we're in the middle of an election already. The election has already started. Tens of thousands of people have already voted. And so the thing that should happen is we should wait. We should wait and see what the outcome of this election is, because that's the only way the American people get to express their view is by who they elect as president and who they elect. Now, what's at stake here is the president's made it clear he wants to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. He's been running on that, he ran on that, and he's been governing on that. He's in the Supreme Court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which will strip 20 million people from having insurance, health insurance now, if it goes into court. And the justice, and I have nothing, I'm not opposed to the justice, she seems like a very fine person. But she's written before she went on the bench, which is her right, that she thinks that the Affordable Care Act is not constitutional. The other thing that's on the court, and if it's struck down, what happens? Women's rights are fundamentally changed. Once again, a woman could be pay more money because she has a pre-existing condition of pregnancy. They were able to charge a woman more for the same exact procedure a man gets. And that ended when we, in fact, passed the Affordable Care Act. And there's 100 million people who have pre-existing conditions, and they'll be taken away as well. Those pre-existing conditions, the insurance companies are going to love this. And so it's just not appropriate to do this before this election. If he wins the election and the Senate is Democrat or Republican, then he goes forward. If not, we should wait until February. All right.
There aren't 100 million people with pre-existing conditions. As far as the say is concerned, the people already had their say. Okay, Justice Ginsburg said very powerfully, very strongly, at some point, 10 years ago or so, she said a president and the Senate is elected for a period of time, but a president's elected for 4 years. We're not elected for 3 years. I'm not elected for 3 years. So we have the Senate, we have a president.
He's elected to the next
during
election.
that period of time, we have an opening. I'm not elected for 3 years. I'm elected for 4 years. And the 100 million people, Joe, the 100 million people is totally wrong. I don't know where you got that number. The bigger problem that you have is that you're going to extinguish 180 million people with their private health care that they're very happy with.
That's simply not true.
Well, you're certainly going to socialist. You're going to socialist medicine.
We're now into, gentlemen, we're now into open discussion.
Open discussion.
Open discussion. Yes, I agree. Go ahead, Vice President.
Number one, he knows that what I proposed. What I proposed is that we expand Obamacare and we increase it. We do not wipe any, and one of the big debates we had with 23 of my colleagues trying to win the nomination that I won were saying that Biden wanted to allow people to have private insurance still. They can, they do, they will under my proposal.
It's not what you've said,
But
and it's not what your party has said.
That is simply
Your party
a lie.
doesn't say it. Your party
That is
wants to
simple.
go socialist
My
medicine
party is
and
me.
socialist
Right
healthcare.
now, I am
and
the
they're going to
Democratic
dominate
Party.
you, Joe. You know that.
I am the Democratic Party right now. The platform of the
Not according
Democratic
to
Party
Harris.
is what I, in fact, approved of. What I approved of. Now, here's the deal. The deal is that it's going to wipe out pre-existing conditions. And by the way, the 200,000 people that have died on his watch, how many of those have survived? Well, there's 7 million people that contracted COVID. What does it mean for them going forward if you strike down the Affordable Care Act?
Joe, you've had 308,000 military people dying because you couldn't provide them proper health care in the military. So don't tell me
I'm
about
happy
this.
to talk about
And
this.
if you were here,
Look,
it
here's
wouldn't
the
be
deal.
200, it would be 2 million people because you were very late on the draw. You
Late
didn't
on
want
the
me to
draw.
ban China, which was heavily infected. You didn't want me to ban
All right, gentlemen,
Europe, which
no,
was heavily
Mr. President,
You would have
Mr.
been much
President,
later, Joe.
Mr. President,
much later.
Mr.
You're
President,
talking about 2 million people.
You're not
Mr.
gonna be able
President,
to
as
shut
the
him up.
moderator, we are going to talk about COVID in the next segment, but go ahead.
Let me finish. The point is that the president also is opposed to Roe v. Wade. That's on the ballot as well in the court. And so that's also at stake right now. And so the election is already
You don't know it's on the
begun.
ballot. Why is it on the ballot?
Because
Why is
you
it on the
said
ballot? It's not
you're-
on the ballot.
It's on the ballot in the
I
court.
don't think so.
In the court. Well,
There's nothing happening there.
Donald, would
And
you
you
just
don't
be quiet
know
for a minute?
her view on Roe v. Wade. You
I
don't
don't
know her
know.
view.
Well, all right, let's talk. We got a lot to unpack here, gentlemen. We got a lot of time. So on health care, and then we'll come back to Roe v. Wade.
All right.
Mr. President, the Supreme Court will hear a case a week after the election in which the Trump administration, along with 18 state attorneys general, are seeking to overturn
That's right.
Obamacare, to end Obamacare. You have spent the last...
Because they
Look,
want to give good health care.
If I may ask
Go
my
ahead.
question, sir.
Good health care.
Over the last 4 years, you have promised to repeal and replace Obamacare, but you have never in these 4 years come up with a plan, a comprehensive plan
Yes,
to
I have.
replace Obamacare.
Of course I have.
Well, I'll
I
give
got
you an
rid of the individual
when I finish,
mandate.
I'm going to give you an
Excuse
opportunity.
me. I got rid of the individual mandate, which was a
That is
big
not a
chunk of
comprehensive
Obamacare.
plan.
That is absolutely a big thing. That was the
I
worst
didn't
part of
ask,
Obamacare.
Sir,
Chris,
you're
that was the
debating him,
worst
not
part
me.
of Obamacare.
Let me ask my question.
Well, I'll ask Joe.
The
individual mandate was the most unpopular aspect of Obamacare. I got rid of it.
I'd like
and
you
we
to,
will protect
Mr.
people
President,
with
I'm the
pre-existing
moderator of this
conditions.
debate, and I would like you to let me ask my question, and then you can answer your
ahead.
question. You, in the course of these 4 years, have never come up with a comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare, and just this last Thursday, you signed a largely symbolic executive order to protect people with pre-existing conditions 5 days before this debate. So my question, sir, is what is the Trump health care plan?
Fine. Well, first of all, I guess I'm debating you, not him, but that's okay. I'm not surprised. Let me just tell you something, that there's nothing symbolic. I'm cutting drug prices. I'm going with favored nations, which no president has the courage to do because you're going against Big Pharma. Drug prices will be coming down 80 or 90%. You could have done it during your 47-year period in government, but you didn't do it. Nobody's done it. So we're cutting health care.
What about
All of the
pre-existing
things that
conditions?
we've done,
He has not cut
insulin. I
healthcare.
give you an example, insulin. It was destroying families, destroying people. The cost, I'm getting it for so cheap. It's like water, you want to know the truth. So cheap. Take a look at all of the drugs that what we're doing, prescription drug prices. We're going to allow our governors now to go to other countries to buy drugs because
When in
they
fact-
pay just a tiny fraction.
As I say,
of
this
what we
is
do.
open discussion.
No,
Let
but
me
this
ask you
is
about,
big.
this
This
you'll
is
be happy,
big stuff.
sir. You'll be happy. I'm about to pick up on one of your points to ask the vice president, which is he points out that you would like to add a public option to Obamacare, and
Yes.
the argument that he makes and other Republicans make is that that is going to end private insurance.
It is
and
not.
well, if I can
sorry.
ask you the question, it will
Not what
end.
your party says, by the way.
It will end private insurance and create a government takeover of health care.
It does not. It's only for those people who are so poor they qualify for Medicaid. They can get that free in most states, except governors who want to deny people who are poor Medicaid. Anyone who qualifies for Medicare would, Medicaid would automatically be enrolled in the public option. The vast majority of the American people would still not be in that option, number one.
Joe, you
Number
agreed
two.
with Bernie
Number-
Sanders, who's
I
far
did-
left, on the manifesto,
when
we
you-
call it,
when
and that
manifest-
gives you socialized medicine.
Look, hey,
Are you
I'm
saying
not
you
going
didn't
to listen to
agree?
him. The fact of the matter is, I beat Bernie Sanders.
Not by much.
I beat him a whole hell of a lot. I'm
Not
here.
by
I'm here
much.
standing facing you, old buddy.
Pocahontas would have left
Well,
2 days
I tell
early.
you,
You would have lost every primary.
All he knows how to
on
do is
Super
hurt.
Tuesday. You got
Look,
very lucky.
here's the deal. I got very lucky. I'm going to get very lucky tonight as well. And tonight I'm going to
With
make
what?
sure, because
With what?
here's the deal. Here's the deal. The fact is that everything he's saying so far is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
But you
I just
agree.
want to
Hey,
make
Joe,
sure.
you're the liar.
I want to make sure.
Graduated last in your class, not first in your class.
I want to make
Mr.
sure.
President, can you let him finish, sir?
No, he doesn't know how to do that. He has,
You'd be surprised.
you pick
You'd be surprised.
the
Go ahead,
wrong
Joe.
guy, the wrong
Joe,
night at
go.
the wrong time.
Listen, you agreed with
Here's the
Bernie
deal.
Sanders to the
The
manifesto.
whole idea.
Now
Let
you're
him-
disavowing it.
There
Go ahead.
is no manifesto, number
Please
one.
let him speak, Mr.
Number
President.
two.
You just lost the left.
Number two.
You just lost the left. You agreed with Bernie Sanders on a plan
Folks,
that's absolutely
folks,
agreed
do you
to,
have any
and under that
idea
plan,
what
you have
this clown's
socialized,
doing?
They call it
Mr.
Medicare.
You
Mr.
have any
President.
do?
Socialized medicine.
Mr.
Well,
President.
I tell you what, he is not for any help for people needing health care. Because
Bernie?
because he in fact already has cost 10 million people their health care that they had from their employers because of his recession. Number one. Number two,
yeah.
there are 20 million people getting health care through Obamacare now that he wants to take it away. He won't ever look you in the eye and say that's what he wants to do. take it away.
No, I want to give them better health care at a much lower price because
and by the way, he
Obamacare
doesn't
is
know
no
how.
good.
He doesn't know how
I've
to do
already
that.
fixed it.
He has never
I've
offered
already
a
fixed
plan.
it to an extent.
He has never
Obamacare,
done a
as
single
you might
thing.
know, but probably don't. Obamacare
Gentlemen, you
is
realize
no
if you're
good,
both
Joe.
speaking at the
It's no
same
good,
time,
and it's too expensive.
let the president's, go ahead, sir.
Obamacare is no good. We made it better, and I had a choice to make very early on. We took away the individual mandate. We guarantee pre-existing conditions, but took away the individual mandate. Listen, this is the way it is. And that destroyed, that they shouldn't even call it Obamacare. Then I had a choice to make. Do I let my people run it really well or badly? If I run it badly, they'll probably blame him, but they'll blame me. But more importantly, I want to help people, okay? I said, you got to run it so well.
That's what
and I just had a meeting with them. They said, the problem is no matter how well you run Obamacare, it's a disaster. It's too expensive.
Okay.
Premiums are too
it.
high, and it
what his
doesn't work.
peop- that's
So
what his people
we
say.
do want to get
No,
rid of it.
it's
Chris,
an
we
open
want to get rid of it.
I understand
and
it,
give
sir, but
something
I have
that's
to
cheaper
give
and
you
better.
roughly equal time.
Good.
Please let the vice president talk.
Good.
He has no plan for health care. Of
course we do.
Please.
He sends out wishful thinking. He has executive orders that have no power. He hasn't lowered drug costs for anybody. He's been promising a health care plan since he got elected. He has none, like almost everything else he talks about. He does not have a plan. He doesn't have a plan. And the fact is, this man doesn't know what he's talking about.
All right,
He's
I have one final question for you,
Sure.
Mr. Vice President. If Senate Republicans, we were talking originally about the Supreme Court here, if Senate Republicans go ahead and confirm Justice Barrett, there has been talk about ending the filibuster or even packing the court, adding to the 9 justices there. You call this a distraction by the president, but in fact it wasn't brought up by the president. It was brought up by some of your Democratic colleagues in the Congress. So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. Vote now.
Are you going to pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know
He doesn't want
you're a
to answer the
senator.
question.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why
because
wouldn't you answer that
because
question?
the question
you want to put a lot
is
of
the
new
question
Supreme Court
is
justices,
the
radical
question-
left.
Will you
Who
shut
is
up,
on,
man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe?
This
Who's
is
on your
so
list?
Right, gentlemen, I think
This
we've
is
ended
so
this.
He's going to pack the
unprecedented.
court.
We have,
I'm not going to give a list.
we have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it? Keep yapping, man.
The people understand, Joe.
They sure do.
47 years, you've done nothing. They understand.
All right. The second subject is COVID-19, which is an awfully serious subject, so let's try to be serious about it. We have had more than 7 million cases of coronavirus in the United States, and more than 200,000 people have died. Even after we produce a vaccine, experts say that it could be months or even years before we come back to anything approaching normal. My question for both of you is, based on what you have said and done so far and what you have said you would do starting in 2021, why should the American people trust you more than your opponent to deal with this public health crisis going forward? In this case, the question goes to you first, sir. 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Good luck. 200,000 dead. As you said, over 7 million infected in the United States. We, in fact, have 4% of the world's population, 20% of the deaths. 40,000 people a day are contracting COVID. In addition to that, about between 750 and 1,000 people a day are dying. When he was presented with that number, he said, it is what it is. Well, it is what it is because you are who you are. That's why it is. The president has no plan. He hasn't laid out anything. He knew all the way back in February how serious this crisis was. He knew it was a deadly disease. What did he do? He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it. He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because he didn't want to panic the American people. You don't panic. He panicked. In addition to that, what did he do? He went in and we were insisting that the Chinese, the people we had on the ground in China should be able to go to Wuhan and determine for themselves how dangerous this was. He did not even ask Xi to do that. He told us what a great job Xi was doing. He said we owe him a debt of gratitude for being so transparent with us. And what did he do then? He then did nothing. He waited and waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan.
Wrong.
I laid out
Sir,
back
it's
in
just 2
March
minutes.
exactly
it's so
what we
wrong.
should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing. We should be providing all the protective gear possible. We should be providing the money the House has passed in order to be able to go out and get people the help they need to keep their businesses open schools. It costs a lot of money. You should get out of your bunker and get out of the sand trap and get in your golf course and go in the Oval Office and bring together the Democrats and Republicans and fund what needs to be done now to save lives.
So if we would have listened to
You have 2 minutes, sir.
if we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open. Millions of people would have died, not 200,000, and one person is too much. It's China's fault. It should have never happened. They stopped it from going in, but it was China's fault. And by the way, when you talk about numbers, you don't know how many people died in China. You don't know how many people died in Russia. You don't know how many people died in India. They don't exactly give you a straight count, just so you understand. But if you look at what we've done, I closed it, and you said he's xenophobic. He's a racist, and he's xenophobic because you didn't think I should
unrelated
have
to
closed
your
our country.
COVID.
No,
Wait
sir,
a minute.
It says 2 minutes.
You didn't think we should have closed our country because you thought it was terrible. You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By my doing it early, in fact, Dr. Fauci said, President Trump saved thousands of lives. Many of you Democrat governors said, President Trump did a phenomenal job. We worked with the governor. Oh, really? Go take a look. The governors said I did a phenomenal job. Most of them said that. In fact, people that would not be necessarily on my side said that. President Trump did a phenomenal job. We did. We got the gowns. We got the masks. We made the ventilators. You wouldn't have made ventilators. And now we're weeks away from a vaccine. We're doing therapeutics already. Fewer people are dying when they get sick. Far fewer people are dying. We've done a great job. The only thing I haven't done a good job, and that's because of the fake news. No matter what you say to them, they give you bad press on it. It's just fake news. They give you good press, they give me bad press, because that's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just tell you something. I don't care. I've gotten used to it. But I'll tell you, Joe, you could never have done the job that we did. You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job.
I know how to do the job. I know how to get the job
Well, you
done.
didn't do very well in swine flu. H1N1, you were a disaster. Your own chief of staff said you were a disaster.
14,000 people died, not 200,000. There was
A
no
very-
economic
Sir,
recession.
you made a
Far less lethal disease,
You made a
by the way.
point. Let him answer.
And there was we didn't shut down the economy. This is his economy he shut down. The reason it's shut down is because, look, you folks at home, how many of you got up this morning and had an empty chair at the kitchen table because someone died of COVID? How many of you were in a situation where you lost your mom or dad and you couldn't even speak to them? You had a nurse holding a phone up so you could, in fact, say goodbye.
You would have lost far
How
more
many
people.
people?
Far
That is-
more people.
And,
You would have been
and by the way,
months late.
your
You
own,
were
his
months behind me,
his
Joe.
own CDC director says we could lose as many as another 200,000 people between now and the end of the year. And he said, if we just wear a mask, we can save half those numbers. Just a mask. And by the way, in terms of the whole notion of a vaccine, we're for a vaccine, but I don't trust him at all, nor do you. I know you don't. What we trust is a scientist.
You don't
we
trust
Dr.
Johnson
Fauci.
& Johnson, Pfizer?
And
Okay,
by the way,
gentlemen, let me move on to questions about the future, because you both have touched on two of the questions I'm going to ask. Focusing on the future first, President Trump, you have repeatedly either contradicted or been at odds with some of your government's own top scientists. The week before last, the head of the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Redfield, said it would be summer before the vaccine would become generally available to the public. You said that he was confused and mistaken. Those were your two words.
Yeah.
But Dr. Slaoui, the head of your Operation Warp Speed, has said exactly the same thing. Are they both wrong?
Well, I've spoken to the companies, and we can have it a lot sooner. It's a very political thing because people like this would rather make it political than save lives. It is a very political thing. I've spoken to Pfizer. I've spoken to all of the people that you have to speak to. We have great Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and others. They can go faster than that by a lot. become very political because the left, or I don't know if I call them
you're
left, I don't know
suggesting
what
that
I call
the
them.
head of your Operation Warp Speed, Dr. Smiley?
I disagree with him. Yeah, no, I disagree with both of them. And he didn't say that. He said it could be there, but it could also be much sooner. I had him in my office 2 days ago.
He talked about the summer, sir, before it's generally available, just like
He
Dr.
said it's a
Redfield.
possibility that we'll have the answer before November 1st. It could also
I'm
be
talking
after
about when it's
that.
generally available, not when it
Well,
will
we're
be.
going to deliver it right away. We have the military all set up. Logistically, they're all set up. We have our military that delivers soldiers, and they can do 200,000 a day. They're going to be
This
delivering
is the
the
same
vaccine.
man
It's
who
all
told
set up.
you by Easter this would be gone away. By the warm weather, it'd be gone. Miraculous, like a miracle. And by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it. This is the
That
same
was
man.
said sarcastically,
That was
you
him-
know that.
I
That
don't-
was said sarcastically.
And so here's the deal. This man is talking about a vaccine. Every serious company is talking about maybe having a vaccine done by the end of the year. But the distribution of that vaccine will not occur until sometime beginning or the middle of next year to get it out, if we get the vaccine. And pray God we will. Pray God we will.
Mr. Vice President, I want to pick up, though.
You'll have
on
the
that.
vaccine
I
sooner
want to
than
pick
that.
up on this question, though. You say the public can trust the scientists, but they can't trust President Trump. In fact, you said that again tonight. Your running mate, Senator Harris, goes further, saying the public health experts, quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed. Given the fact that polls already show that people are concerned about the vaccine and are reluctant to take it, are you and your running mate, Senator Harris, contributing to that fear?
No more than the question you just asked him. You pointed out. He puts pressure and disagrees with his own scientists.
But you're saying
Everybody
you can't, or
knows.
Senator
And
Harris is saying you
no,
can't trust the
No,
scientists.
well, no, you can trust the scientists. She didn't say that. You can't trust
She said the public health
Did say
experts,
that.
quote, will be muzzled, will be
Yes.
suppressed.
Well, that's what he's going to try to do. But there's millions of scientists, there's thousands of scientists out there, like here at this great hospital, that don't work for him. Their job doesn't depend on him. That's not, they're the people, and by
I
the way.
spoke to the
and Fauci,
scientists that are in
and
charge.
by the way.
They will have
and
the vaccine very
does-
soon.
Let him finish.
Do you believe for a moment what he's telling you in light of all the lies he's told you about the whole issue relating to COVID? He still hasn't even acknowledged that he knew this was happening, knew how dangerous it was going to be back in February, and he didn't even tell you. He's on record as saying it. He panicked or he just looked at the stock market, one of the two, because guess what? A lot of people died, and a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot quicker.
So-
Mr. President?
Did you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you know what? There's nothing smart about you, Joe. 47 years, you've done nothing.
Well, let's have this debate.
And if
We'll
you
see
would have
who's
had, let me just tell you something, Joe.
No,
If you would have had the charge of what I was put through, I had to close the greatest economy in the history of our country. And by the way, now it's being built again.
See,
and
he's
it's
We're going
going
to get
up
to the
fast.
economy in the next segment, sir.
Okay.
It's going up fast. I look
Okay.
forward to talking
When
about
it comes to how the virus has been handled so far, the two of you have taken very different approaches, and this is going to affect how the virus is handled going forward by whichever of you ends up becoming the next president. I want to quickly go through several of those. Reopenings. Vice President Biden, you have been much more reluctant than President Trump about reopening the economy and schools. Why, sir?
Because he doesn't have a plan. If I were running, I know what the plan is. You've got to provide these businesses the ability to have the money to be able to reopen with the PPE as well as with the sanitation they need. You have to provide
that
them
to Nancy
plastic.
Pelosi.
Well, he's just shush for a minute.
Tell it to Nancy Pelosi. And Schumer,
by the
Brian
way,
Chuck.
Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they have a plan. He won't even meet with them. The Republicans won't meet with him in the
Okay.
Senate. And he sits on his golf course and, well, I mean, literally, think about it.
You probably
Or
play
think
more than
about
I
it.
do, Joe.
What about this question of reopenings and the fact?
Well, he wants to shut down this country, and I want to keep it open. And we
You
did a
ju-
great
he just
thing by
admitted
shutting
he
it
shut
down.
it down.
Wait a minute,
Let
Joe.
him
Let me
finish,
shut
sir.
you down for a second, Joe, just for 1 second. He wants to shut down the country. We just went through it. We had to because we didn't know anything about the disease. Now we found that elderly people with heart problems and diabetes and different problems are very, very vulnerable. We learned a lot. Young children aren't. Even younger people aren't. We've learned a lot. But he wants to shut it down. More people will be hurt by continuing. If you look at Pennsylvania, if you look at certain states that have been shut down, they have Democrat governors all. One of the reasons they're shut down is because they want to keep it shut down until after the election on November 3rd.
I want to move on to another
because
subject.
it's a
I want to move
political
on to another
I've got to
subject.
respond.
But those states are not doing well that are shut down
Which is
right
got
now.
to respond to that.
President
shut
Trump,
down the
you
whole
have
country.
begun to increasingly question the effectiveness of masks as a disease preventer. And in fact, recently you have cited the issue of waiters touching their masks and touching plates. Are you questioning
No, I think
the
masks
efficacy
are
of
okay.
masks?
You have to understand, if you look, I mean, I have a mask right here. I put a mask on, when I think I need it. Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test, and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to, but I
Just
wear
like your
masks
rallies.
when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen. I will say
Vice President Biden, go ahead, sir.
Look, the way to open businesses is give them the wherewithal to be able to open. We provided money. The Congress.
But I was asking you, sir, about masks.
Well, masks make a big difference. His own head of the CDC said if we just wore masks between now, everybody wore masks in social distance between now and January, we'd probably save up to 100,000 lives. It matters.
And they've also
It
said the
matters.
opposite. They've
And
also said
no serious person said the opposite.
They've
No
also said, well, look
serious
at
I wanna
Dr.
ask you-
Fauci. Dr. Fauci said the
He
opposite.
did not
I
say
want to
the
ask you, we
opposite.
got a
Said
little
very
bit more than a
strongly,
minute left in this
masks
segment.
are not good. Then he changed his mind. He said masks are good.
I
I'm
wanna
okay
ask-
with masks.
I
I'm
want to
not
ask you
fighting
both about
masks.
one last subject, because your different approaches has even affected the way that you have campaigned. President Trump, you're holding large rallies with crowds packed together, thousands of people.
Outside.
Outside, yes, sir, agreed. Vice President Biden, you are holding much smaller events with
Because nobody will show up.
people with.
Well, it's true. Nobody shows up to his rallies.
All right. In any case, why you holding the big rallies? Why you not? You go first, sir.
Because people want to hear what I have to say. I mean,
But are you
I've
not
done a
worried
great
about it
job
spreading
as a
disease?
president, and I'll have 35,000 people show up at airports. We use airports.
Are you
for
not worried
hangars,
about
and we
the
have a
disease
lot of
issue,
people.
sir?
Well, so far we have had no problem whatsoever. It's outside. That's a big difference, according to the experts. And we do them outside. We have tremendous crowds, as you see. I mean, and literally on 24 hours notice. And Joe does the circles and has 3 people someplace.
Okay.
By the way, did you see
sir.
one of the last big rallies he had? And a reporter came up to him to ask him a question. He said, no, stand back. Put on your mask. Put on a mask. Have you been tested? I'm way far away from those other people. That's what he said. I can't. I'm going to be okay. He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing in one another.
We've had no negative
cheek to
effect.
jowl. No negative effect.
We've had no negative effect. And we've had 35, 40,000
All right.
people
wanna
at these rallies.
Just
Yes.
quickly finish up, because I want to move on to our next.
Yes, I would. He's been totally irresponsible the way in which he has handled the social distancing and people wearing masks, basically encouraged them not to.
All right.
He's a fool on this.
If you could get the crowds, you would have done the same thing. But you can't. Nobody cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on to the
Nobody cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on to the economy?
Yes.
The economy is, I think it's fair to say, recovering faster than expected from the shutdown.
Much faster.
In the second quarter, the unemployment rate fell to 8.4% last month. The Federal Reserve says the hit to growth, which is going to be there, is not going to be nearly as big as they had expected. President Trump, you say we are in a V-shaped recovery. Vice President Biden, you say it's more of a K-shape. What difference does that mean to the American people in terms of the economy? President Trump, in this segment, you go first.
So we built the greatest economy in history. We closed it down because of the China plague. When the plague came in, we closed it down, which was very hard psychologically to do. He didn't think we should close it down, and he was wrong. And again, 2 million people would be dead now. Instead of still 204,000 people is too much. One person is too much. Should have never happened from China. But what happened is we closed it down, and now we're reopening, and we're doing record business. We had 10.4 million people in a 4-month period that we've put back into the workforce. That's a record the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And he wants to close down he will shut it down again. He will destroy this country. You know, a lot of people, between drugs and alcohol and depression, when you start shutting it down, you take a look at what's happening in some of your Democrat-run states where they have these tough shutdowns. And I'm telling you, it's because they don't want to open it. One of them came out last week, you saw that. Oh, we're going to open up on November 9th. Why November 9th? Because it's after the election. They think they're hurting us by keeping them closed. They're hurting people. People know what to do. They can social distance, they can wash their hands, they can wear masks, they can do whatever they want. But they got to open these states up. When you look at North Carolina, and these governors are under siege, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and a couple of others, you got to open these states up. It's not fair. You're talking about almost, it's like being in prison. And you look at what's going on with divorce, look at what's going on with alcoholism and drugs. It's a very, very sad thing. And he'll close down the whole country. This guy will close down the whole country and destroy our country. Our country is coming back incredibly well, setting records as it does it. We don't need somebody to come in and say, let's shut it down.
All right. Your 2 minutes, sir. We're now moved to you. As I said, posing the question, the president says it's a V-shaped recovery. You say it's a K-shaped recovery. What's the difference?
The difference is millionaires and billionaires like him in the middle of the COVID crisis have done very well. Billionaires have made another $300 billion because of his profligate tax proposal, and he only focused on the market. But you folks at home, you folks living in Scranton and Claymont and all the small towns and working class towns in America, how well are you doing? This guy paid a total of $750 in taxes.
Sir, wait, no, sir, it's just yeah, I understand. You've agreed to the 2 minutes, so please let him have it.
Do I get my time back? The fact is that he has, in fact, worked on this in a way that he's going to be the first president of the United States to leave office having fewer jobs in his administration than when he became president. Fewer jobs than when he became president. First one in American history. Secondly, the people who have lost their jobs are those people who have been on the front lines, those people who have been saving our lives, those people who have been out there dying, people who've been putting themselves in the way to make sure that we could all try to make it. And the idea that he is insisting that we go forward and open when you have almost half the states in America with a significant increase in COVID deaths and COVID cases in the United States of America. And he wants to open it up more. Why does he want to open it up? Why doesn't he take care of the American? You can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis. And he has no intention of doing anything about making it better for you all at home in terms of your health and your safety. Schools, why aren't schools open? Because it costs a lot of money to open them safely. You know, they were going to give, his administration was going to give the teachers and school students masks. And then they decided, no, couldn't do that because it's not a national emergency, not a national emergency. They've done nothing to help small businesses, nothing. They're closing. 1 in 6 is now gone. He ought to get on the job and take care of the needs of the American people so we can open safely.
All right, your time is up, sir. Well, we are going to get to...
I have to respond to that.
Well, you both had 2 minutes, sir.
Excuse me, he made a statement.
So did you.
People want their schools, people want their schools open. They don't want to be shut down. They don't want their state shut down. They want their restaurants. I look at New York, it's so sad what's happening in New York. It's almost like a ghost town, and I'm not sure it can ever recover what they've done in New York. People want their places open. They want to get back to their lives. They'll be careful, but they want their schools open. I'm the one that brought back football. By the way, I brought back Big Ten football. It was me, and I'm very happy to do it. And
all right,
people of Ohio are very proud of me. And you know how I found out? When he took
gentlemen,
the phony
we're going to
ad.
get to your economic plans going forward in a moment. But first, Mr. President, as you well know, there's a new report that in 2016, the year you were elected president, and 2017, your first year as president, that you paid $750 a year in federal income tax each of those years. I know that you pay a lot of other taxes, but I'm asking you the specific question. Is it true that you paid $750 in federal income taxes each of those 2 years?
I paid millions of dollars in taxes, millions of dollars of income tax. And let me just tell you, There was a story in one of the papers.
Show us your tax
I paid
returns.
$38 million one year. I paid $27 million
Show us your tax
one year.
returns.
I went, you'll see it as soon as it's finished. You'll see it. You know, if you want to go to the Board of Elections. There's a 118-page or so report that says everything I have, every bank I have, I'm totally under-leveraged because the assets are extremely good, and I built
Sir,
a great company.
I'm asking you a specific question, which
But
is...
let me tell you...
I understand all of that.
Release your
I
tax
understand all of that.
return.
No, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
I'm asking you a question. Will you tell us how much you paid in federal income taxes in 2016 and 2017?
Millions of dollars.
You paid millions of dollars?
Millions of dollars,
So
yes.
not 750?
Millions of dollars, and you'll get to see it. And you'll get to see
When?
it. But let me just tell you, Chris, let me just tell you something, that it was the tax laws. I don't want to pay tax. Before I came here, I was a private developer. I was a private business people. Like every other private person, unless they're stupid, they go through the laws, and that's what it is. He passed a tax bill that gave us all these privileges for depreciation and for tax credits. We build a building and we get tax credits, like the hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. You get a massive, which, by the way, was given to me by the Obama administration, if you can believe that. Now, the man got fired right after that happened. But
Vice President Biden, you want to respond?
Yeah, I do want to respond. Look, the tax code that made him, put him in a position that he pays less tax than a school teacher makes on the money a school teacher makes is because of him he says he's smart because he can take advantage of the tax code. And he does take advantage of the tax code. That's why I'm going to eliminate the Trump tax cuts. And I'm going to eliminate those tax cuts and make sure that we invest in the people who, in fact, need the help. People out there need help.
But why didn't you do it over the last 25 years?
Because you weren't president. Because you weren't president screwing things up.
You were a senator. And
You're
by
the
way,
worst
you were a
president
vice-
America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just tell you, Joe. I've done more in 47 months. I've done more than you've done in 47 years, Joe. We've done things that you never even thought of doing, including fixing the broken military that you gave me, including taking care of your vets.
Mr. President, we're talking about the economy. I'd like to ask you about your plans going forward because, Mr. Vice President, your economic plan, if you were to be elected president, focuses a lot on big government, big taxes, big spending. I want to focus first on the taxes. You propose more than $4 trillion over a decade in new taxes on individuals making more than $400,000 a year and on corporations. President Trump says that that kind of an increase in taxes is going to hurt the economy as it's just coming out of a recession.
Well, just take a look at what is the analysis done by Wall Street firms. Points out that my economic plan would create 7 million more jobs than his in 4 years, number one. And number two, it would create an additional $1 trillion in economic growth because it would be about buying American. That we're going to make, this federal government spends $600 billion a year on everything from ships to steel to buildings and the like. And under my proposal, we're going to make sure that every penny of that has to be made by a company.
But respectfully, sir, I'm talking about taxes, not spending.
By the way, I'm going to eliminate a significant number of the tax. I'm going to make the corporate tax 28%. It shouldn't be 21%. You have 91 companies, in the Fortune 500, who don't pay a single penny in tax, making billions of dollars.
Why didn't you do it
Billions
before
of
when
dollars.
you were vice president with Obama?
Because you, in fact, passed that. That was your tax proposal.
I got it done. And you know what happened?
Yeah, you got it done.
Our economy boomed like it's never boomed
The economy is
Mr.
busted.
President,
Mr.
President, let me pick up on that. You would continue your free market approach, lower taxes, more deregulation, correct?
Not lower taxes for American people.
Excuse me.
But in Obama's, you talk about the economy booming, it turns out that in Obama's final 3 years as president, more jobs were created, 1.5 million more jobs than in the first 3 years of your presidency.
They had the slowest recovery economic recovery since 1929. It was the slowest recovery. Also, they took over something that was down here. All you had to do is turn on the lights and you pick up a lot. But they had the slowest economic recovery since 1929. Let me tell you about the stock market. When the stock market goes up, that means jobs. It also means 401ks. if you got in, if you ever became president with your ideas, you want to terminate my taxes, I'll tell you what, you'll lose half of the companies that have poured in here will leave, and plenty
Half
of companies that are already here, they'll leave for
hardly any
other
companies
places.
have
They will
poured in
leave,
here.
and you will have a
Have it.
depression, the likes
that-
of which you've never seen.
Look,
Mr.
we
Vice
inherited the worst recession short of a depression in American history. I was asked to bring it back. We were able to have an economic recovery that created the jobs you're talking about. We handed him a booming economy. He blew it.
It wasn't
he
booming.
Blew it. He blew
It wasn't booming. It was the weakest recovery
Sir, is it
since
fair to, wait,
1929.
is it fair to say he blew it when, in
When
fact, there was
COVID came in.
when there was record low unemployment before COVID?
Yeah, but because what he did, even before COVID, manufacturing went in the hole. Manufacturing went in the hole.
Excuse
number
me,
one.
Chris. Wait.
Number two.
Chris.
Number three.
They said it would take. No, you were number two.
No.
Chris. They said it would
This
take a
guy is
miracle to bring back manufacturing. I brought back 700,000 jobs. They brought back nothing. They gave up on manufacturing.
We
Part
did
of
not
my
agree.
standard fare.
I'm the guy that
He
brought
totally
back
gave
the
up on
automobile industry.
manufacturing.
All right, let him know.
We brought back, I was asked to bring back Chrysler and General Motors. We brought them back right here in the state of Ohio and Michigan. He blew it. They're gone. He blew it. And in fact, they're going
Ohio
after
had the best year it's ever had last year. Michigan had the best year they've ever had.
That is not
Many
true.
car companies
No,
came in from Germany, from Japan, went to Michigan, went to Ohio.
They're not having
And they
Mr.
didn't
Vice-
come in
wait,
with you.
Mr. Vice President, go ahead.
And so you take a look at what he's actually done. He's done very little. His trade deals are the same way. He talks about these great trade deals. You know, he talks about the art of the deal. China's perfected the art of the steal. We have a higher deficit with China now than we did before. We have the highest trade deficit
China
with
ate
Mexico.
your lunch, down
All right, gentlemen,
18%. China ate your lunch, Joe. And no wonder your son goes in and he takes out billions of dollars, to manage. He makes millions of dollars. And also,
Simply
while we're
not
at it,
true.
why is it, just out of curiosity, the mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million.
That's
What
not
did he
true.
do to deserve it?
That
What
is
did he do with Burisma
none
to
of that-
deserve
Wait, wait,
$183,000?
None
You've
of
asked
that
your
is
question,
true.
let him answer.
None of that is true.
Oh,
It's
really? He didn't
totally
get
But no,
$3.5
hey,
million?
Mr. President,
It's
Mr.
totally-
President, please.
totally
ask a question.
discredited. Totally discredited. And by the way,
Well, wait,
let's
he didn't
talk-
get
No, no.
$3.5 million, Joe?
Mr. Vice,
He got
Mr.
$3.5 million.
President,
That is not true.
Oh,
Here's-
really?
Mr.
Oh.
President,
But,
it's an open discussion, please.
Now,
It's a fact.
Well,
There's- it
you
is
have
not a
raised an
fact.
issue, let the
It's been
Vice
totally
President answer.
discredited.
Did
There was a
Burisma pay him
report.
$183,000 a month with no experience in energy?
Mr.
Look,
President,
no
My
job?
son did nothing wrong at Burisma.
I think he
and
did.
Mr.
The only guy
President,
that
let
did
him
something-
answer.
He doesn't want to let me answer because he knows I have the truth. His position has been totally, thoroughly discredited.
who?
And
The media?
By everybody. Well, by the
By the
media,
media,
by our
because they refuse to
allies, by
talk
the
about it
World
because they're
Bank,
embarrassed.
by everyone has discredited. Matter of fact, even
Mr.
the people
President,
who
please stop.
testified under oath.
So let me
under
ask you
oath,
this, Joe.
under
No,
oath.
go ahead, Mr. I'm listening to
Even
you.
the people under.
He got $3.5
he
million from
testified-
Moscow.
He testified under oath in his administration, said, I did my job and I did it very well.
Oh,
I
really?
did it
I'd like to
honorably.
know who they are.
Well, I'll give you the list
I'll
of the
fire
people who
them.
testified.
No, go ahead, sir.
Sure, you've already fired most of them because they did a good job.
Some people don't
Well,
do a good
here's
job. With you,
Go
they
ahead,
say,
you get
here's the
wait a
deal.
minute, you get the final word, Mr.
Well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown. Excuse me, this.
Hey,
this
let me just
person.
tell you,
No, I'm Mr. President. I'm
$3.5
Mr.
million,
President.
Joe.
That is simply
Why did
not
he
true.
deserve $3.5 million
It
from
did-
Moscow?
Look, here's the deal. We want to talk about families and ethics. I don't want to do that. I mean, his family we could talk about all night. His family's
My
already.
family,
No, let him go.
my family
already
lost
wrote-
a fortune by
Go
coming
ahead.
down and helping
Go
us
ahead.
with
Go ahead,
government.
sir.
And that's
Every-
such a.
they're right
that's
here.
a-
Mr.
that's
President.
such
Every
a great.
single one of them lost
This
a
is not
fortune
about
by
my
coming and
family or
helping
his
us with
family. It's
government.
about your family,
They
the
didn't
American
collect
people.
$3.5 million
He
for
doesn't.
nothing.
That's not true. It doesn't want to talk about what you need. You, the American people. It's about you. That's what we're talking about.
you
here.
should
All right,
Not
that's the end
about
of
here.
that's the end of the
Shouldn't have
segment.
taken the money.
We're moving on.
He didn't take them.
Well,
Vice
it's a
President,
but Chris,
no,
can I be honest? It's a very important
Try to be
question.
honest.
No,
He
I
stood
get it.
up.
No,
he stood up.
the answer to
and
the
he
question is
threatened
no.
Ukraine.
No, sir.
With $1 billion,
Sir,
if you don't
that
get rid of
is
the press.
You know what? You're
absolutely
wait,
not
stop.
You're on
true.
tape doing it.
You're going to
You're on
have
tape.
True.
Gentlemen,
Is-
I hate to raise
Chris,
my voice,
he's
but
on
it seems
tape.
to be, why should I be different than the two of you? So here's the
Got a
deal.
good point.
We have 6 segments. We have ended that segment. We're going to go to the next segment. In that segment, you each are going to have 2 uninterrupted moments. In those 2 uninterrupted minutes, Mr. President, you can say anything you want. I'm going to ask a question about race, but if you want to answer about something else, go ahead. But I think that the country would be better served if we allowed both people to speak with fewer interruptions. I'm appealing to you, sir, to do that.
Well, and him too.
Well, frankly, you've been doing more interrupting
Well, that's
than
all
he
right,
has.
but he does plenty.
Well, less than, sir, less
there's
than,
plenty.
no, less than you have. Let's please continue on. The issue of race. Vice President Biden, you say that President Trump's response to the violence in Charlottesville 3 years ago, when he talked about very fine people on both sides, was what directly led you to launch this run for president.
Oh, yeah, sure.
President Trump, you have often said that you believe you have done more for Black Americans than any president, with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln. My question for the 2 of you is, why should voters trust you rather than your opponent to deal with the race issues facing this country over the next 4 years? Vice President Biden, you go first.
It's about equity and equality. It's about decency. It's about the Constitution. And we have never walked away from trying to require equity for everyone, equality for the whole of America. But we've never accomplished it. But we've never walked away from it like he has done. It is true. The reason I got in the race is when those people, close your eyes, remember what those people look like coming out of the fields carrying torches, their veins bulging, just spewing anti-Semitic bile, and accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. A young woman got killed. And they asked the president what he thought. He said there were very fine people on both sides. No president's ever said anything like that.
It is whose
now, second point I'd make to you is that when Floyd was killed, when Mr. Floyd was killed, there was a peaceful protest in front of the White House. What did he do? He came out of his bunker, had the military use tear gas on him so he could walk across to a church and hold up a Bible. And then what happened after that? The bishop of that very church said that it was a disgrace. The general who was with him said all he ever wants to do is divide people, not unite people at all. This is a president who has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate racist hatred, racist division. This is a man who, in fact, you talk about helping African Americans. 1 in 1,000 African Americans has been killed because of the coronavirus. And if he doesn't do something quickly, by the end of the year, 1 in 500 will have been killed. 1 in 500 African Americans. This man is the savior of African Americans. This man cares at all. This man's done virtually nothing. Look, the fact is that you have to look at what he talks about. You have to look at what he did, and what he did has been disastrous for the African American community.
So,
President Trump, you have 2 minutes. Why should Americans trust you over your opponent to deal with racism?
he did a crime bill, 1994, where you call them super predators, African Americans, the super predators, and they've never forgotten it. They've never forgotten it, Joe.
No, sir, it's his 2 minutes.
So you did that, and they call you a super predator, and I'm letting people out of jail now that you have treated the African American population community, you have treated the Black community about as bad as anybody in this country. You did the 1990, and that's why, if you look at the polls, I'm doing better than any Republican has done in a long time, because they saw what you did. You call them super predators, and you've called them worse than that, because you look back at your testimony over the years, you've called them a lot worse than that. As far as the church is concerned, and as far as the generals are concerned, we just got the support of 250 military leaders and generals, total support. Law enforcement, almost every law enforcement group in the United States. I have Florida, I have Texas, I have Ohio, I have Portland. The sheriff just came out today and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think you have any law enforcement. You can't even say the word law enforcement, because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because you know what? If they called us in Portland, we would put out that fire in a half an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical left Democrats. If you look at Chicago, if you look at any place you want to look, Seattle, They heard we were coming in the following day, and they put up their hands, and we got back Seattle. Minneapolis, we got it back, Joe, because we believe in law and order, but you don't. The top 10 cities and just about the top 40 cities are run by Democrats and in many cases radical left, and they've got you wrapped around their finger, Joe, to a point where you don't want to say anything about law and order. And I'll tell you what, the people of this country want and demand law and order, and you're afraid to even say it.
All right. I want to return to the question of race. Vice President Biden, after the grand jury in the Breonna Taylor case decided not to charge any of the police with homicide, you said it raises the question, quote, whether justice could be equally applied in America. Do you believe that there is a separate but unequal system of justice for blacks in this country?
Yes, there is. There's systemic injustice in this country, in education and work and in law enforcement and the way in which it's enforced. But look, the vast majority of police officers are good, decent, honorable men and women. They risk their lives every day to take care of us. But there are some bad apples, and when they occur, when they find them, they have to be sorted out. They have to be held accountable. They have to be held accountable. And what I'm going to do as President of the United States is call together an entire group of people at the White House, well, everything from the civil rights groups to the police officers, to the police chiefs, and we're going to work this out. We're going to work this out so we change the way in which we have more transparency in when these things happen. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to George Floyd. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to Breonna Taylor. Most don't like it. But we have to have a system where people are held accountable. And by the way, violence in response is never appropriate. Never appropriate. Peaceful protest is. Violence is never appropriate.
All right.
What is peaceful protest? When they run through the middle of a town and burn down your stores and kill people all over the place, and you say peaceful protest? No, it's not, but you say it is.
President Trump, I'd like to continue with the issue of race. I promise we're going to get to the issue of law and order in a moment. This month, your administration directed federal agencies to end racial sensitivity training that addresses white privilege or critical race theory. Why did you decide to do that, to end racial sensitivity training? And do you believe that there is systemic racism in this country, sir?
I ended it because it's racist. I ended it because a lot of people were complaining that they were asked to do things that were absolutely insane, that it was a radical revolution that was taking place in our military, in our schools, all over the place, and you know it, and so does everybody else.
Radical,
and he would know.
What is radical
totally
about racial sensitivity training, sir?
If you were a certain person, you had no status in life. It was sort of a reversal. And if you look at the people, we were paying people hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach very bad ideas, and frankly, very sick ideas. And really, they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to allow that to happen. We have to go back to the core values of this country. They were teaching people that our country is a horrible place, it's a racist place, and they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to allow that to happen.
Vice President Biden?
Nobody's doing that. He's the racist.
You just don't know.
Here's the deal. I know a lot more about
You
this.
don't know.
Let him finish.
The fact is that there is racial insensitivity. People have to be made aware of what other people feel like, what insults them, what is demeaning to them. It's important to people know. They don't want to. Many people don't want to hurt other people's feelings, but it makes a big difference. It makes a gigantic difference in the way a child is able to grow up and have a sense of self-esteem. It's a little bit like how this guy and his friends look down on so many people. They look down their nose on people like Irish Catholics like me and grew up in Scranton. They look down on people who don't have money. They look down on people who are of a different faith. They look down on people who are a different color. In fact, we're all Americans. The only way we're going to bring this country together is bring everybody together. There's nothing we cannot do if we do it together. We can take this on and we can defeat racism in America.
President Trump, sir.
During the Obama-Biden administration, there was tremendous division. There was hatred. You look at Ferguson, you go to many places. Look at Oakland. Look what happened in Oakland. Look what happened in Baltimore. Look what happened. Frankly, it was more violent than what I'm even seeing now.
Oh, my
but
Lord.
the reason
This
is
is
that
ridiculous.
the Democrats that run these
Absolutely
cities
ridiculous.
don't want to talk like you about law and order.
Violent
and you
crime,
still haven't mentioned.
violent
Are you in
crime.
favor of law and order?
I'm in favor of law. You follow
Are you in
it, and a
favor
little bit
of law and order? Go
yes,
ahead,
I'm
say
in
it.
favor.
You
Everybody's
asked a
in favor
question,
of
let him finish.
Law and order.
Loses
Law
lefty.
and
Let
order.
him answer.
Law and order with justice, where people get treated fairly. And the fact of the matter is, violent crime went down 17%, 15% in our administration.
All right.
It's gone up on his watch.
Went down much more in ours.
All right, we're
He
now,
is
you're,
president of
Mr.
the
President,
United
you're going
States
to,
of America.
We were
Mr. President,
breaking every
you're-
record in the
Mr.
book.
President, you're going to be very happy because
And the
we're now going to
excuse
talk
me,
about law and order.
Places we had trouble were Democratic-run cities.
That's
and
exactly
so-
my question.
Democratic-
There has been a dramatic increase in homicides in America this summer particularly, and you often blame that on Democratic mayors and Democratic governors, but in fact there have been equivalent spikes in Republican-led cities like Tulsa and Fort Worth. So the question is this really a party issue?
I think it's a party issue. You can bring in a couple of examples, but if you look at Chicago, what's going on in Chicago, where 53 people were shot and 8 died shot. If you look at New York, where it's going up like nobody's ever seen anything, the numbers are going up 100, 150, 200%. Crime. It is
cities.
crazy what's going on. And he doesn't want to say law and order because he can't, because he'll lose his radical left supporters. And once he does that, it's over with. But if he ever got to run this country and they ran it the way he would want to run it, we would have, our suburbs would be gone. By the way, our suburbs would be gone. And you would see problems like you've
He
never
would
seen.
know a suburb unless he took a wrong turn.
Oh, I know suburbs.
He would not.
So much
I was
better.
raised.
Go ahead, wait a minute.
I was
So much
raised in the suburbs. This is not 1950. All these dog whistles on racism don't work anymore. Suburbs are by and large integrated. There's many people today driving their kids to soccer practice and/or to black and white and Hispanic in the same car as there have been any time in the past. What really is a threat to the suburbs and their safety is his failure to deal with COVID. They're dying in the suburbs. His failure to deal with the environment. They're being flooded. They're being burned out because his refusal to do anything. That's why the suburbs are in trouble.
I do want to talk about this issue of law and order, though. And in the joint recommendation that came from the Biden-Bernie Sanders task force, you talked about, quote, reimagining policing. Yeah. First of all, what does reimagining policing mean, and do you support?
It means.
Let me, if I might finish the question. What does reimagining policing mean, and do you support the Black Lives Matter call for community control of policing?
Look, what I support is the police having the opportunity to deal with the problems they face. And I'm totally opposed to defunding the police officers. As a matter of fact, local police, the only one defunding it, his budget calls for a $400 million cut in local law enforcement assistance. They need more assistance. They need, when they show up for a 9/11 call, to have someone with them as a psychologist or psychiatrist to keep them from having to use force and be able to talk people down. We have to have community policing like we had before, where the officers get to know the people in the communities. That's when crime went down. It didn't go up, it went down. And so we have to be engaged.
That's not what they're talking about, Chris. That's not what they're talking about. He's talking about defunding the police.
That is not true.
He doesn't have any law support. He has no law enforcement
That's not
support.
true.
Almost
That's
nothing.
Look.
Oh, Roy, who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported you. Go ahead.
Look,
think. We have time.
We don't have time to do anything.
Think
All right.
about it.
All right,
Name
folks,
one law enforcement group that came out and supported you.
Gentlemen, I think I'm going to take back the moderator's role.
I don't think there are any.
And I want to get to another subject, which is the issue of protests in many cities that have turned violent. In Portland, Oregon especially, we had more than 100 straight days of protests, which I think you would agree. You talk about peaceful protests. Many of those turned into riots. Mr. Vice President, you say that people who commit crimes should be held accountable. The question I have, though, is, as the Democratic nominee, and earlier tonight you said that you are the Democratic Party right now, have you ever called the Democratic mayor of Portland or the Democratic governor of Oregon and said, hey, you got to stop this, bring in the National Guard, do whatever it takes, but you stop the days and months of violence in Portland?
I don't hold public office now. I am a former vice president. I've made it clear in my public statements that the violence should be prosecuted. It should be prosecuted, and anyone who commits it
But
should
you've
be
never
prosecuted.
called for the people,
He's never
the
said
leader.
that.
Excuse me, sir. You have never called for the leaders in Portland and in Oregon to call
Because
it, bring in
the-
the National Guard and knock off 100 days of riots.
They can, in fact, take care of it if he just stay out of the way. Look here.
Oh, really?
Here,
Oh, really?
here's the
But
thing.
I sent in the
wait, I
U.S.
asked him a
Marshals to
question.
get the killer of the young man in the middle of the street. They shot him, and
Right.
for 3
Mr.
days,
President Trump,
Portland
President
wouldn't do
Trump,
anything. I
please
had to send
interrupt
in
and-
the U.S. Marshals.
President
They took
Trump,
care of business.
Go ahead, sir.
And by the way, you know, his own former spokesperson said, you know, riots and chaos and violence help his cause. That's what this is all about.
I don't know who said that.
I do.
Who?
I think Kellyanne Conway.
I don't think she said that.
She said that.
I don't-
And so here's the
All right.
Well, here's the point.
Go
The
ahead,
point
sir.
is that that's what he is, keeps trying to rile everything up. He doesn't want to calm things down. Instead of going in and talking to people and saying, let's get everybody together, figure out how to deal with this. What's he do? He just pours gasoline in the fire constantly,
And-
every single solitary
Okay,
time.
and to end this, button up this segment, I'm going to give you a minute to answer, sir. You have repeatedly
Well, wait, I
criticized.
have to answer his
No,
statement.
you have
His
repeatedly.
statement. Wait,
you have
just one
no.
second.
You've been talking
You
back
made
and
a
forth.
statement.
I'm asking you.
I would love to
know,
end it.
sir.
I would love to end it, and
you know,
we
if
would
you want to
very-
switch seats,
We would
could
very quickly.
We could do that, but
I'd
I'm
send
no,
in
I-
the National Guard, it would be over. There'd be no problem.
Okay,
But they
good.
don't want to accept the National Guard.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing
That's right.
extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
Are you
I'm willing
prepared
to
to
do that,
specifically
but
do it?
Well,
I
go
would
ahead,
say
sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
what are you-
If
what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see
Well,
peace.
then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
You want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name. Go ahead.
supremacists
Who
and
would
white
you like me to
supremacists.
condemn?
White
Proud Boys.
supremacists and right-wing
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem.
His
This
own
is a left-wing.
FBI director
This
said
is a
the threat
left-wing
of
Go ahead,
problem.
let-
white
go ahead, sir.
supremacists. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
got to be
not
kidding.
militia. That's what
Oh, really?
his
It's an idea.
His
Okay.
FBI director
Gentlemen,
said.
Well,
we're
then
gonna,
you know what?
No,
He's
no,
wrong.
we're done, sir. We're moving on to the next.
Everybody
We're
gives
moving.
you
bat
advice
hits
in
you
your
over the head, that's
administration.
not an idea.
Everybody in
Antifa
your
is
administration
bad.
tells you the truth has a bad idea.
Can I tell you what?
You have no ideas that are
Antifa is a dangerous
All right,
radical
gentlemen, we're
group.
now moving on to the Trump
And
and
you ought to be
Biden
careful
records.
with them. They'll overthrow you.
When
in
a
2
president,
seconds.
I'm going to ask a question. When the president seeks a second term, it is generally a referendum on his record. But Vice President Biden, you like to quote one of your dad's sayings, which is, don't compare me to the Almighty, compare me to the alternative. And in this case, sir, you are the alternative. Looking at both of your records, I'm going to ask each of you, why should voters elect you president over your opponent? In this segment, President Trump, you go first, 2 minutes.
Because there has never been an administration or president who has done more than I've done in a period of 3.5 years. And that's despite the impeachment hoax. And you saw what happened today with Hillary Clinton, where it was a whole big con job. But despite going through all of these things, where I had to fight both flanks and behind me and above, there has never been an administration that's done what I've done. The greatest, before COVID came in, the greatest economy in history, lowest unemployment numbers. Everything was good. Everything was going. And by the way, there was unity going to happen. People were calling me for the first time in years. They were calling and they were saying, it's time maybe. And then what happened? We got hit, but now we're building it back up again. A rebuilding of the military, including Space Force and all of the other things. A fixing of the VA, which was a mess under him. 308,000 people died because they didn't have proper health care. He was a mess. And we now got a 91% approval rating at the VA, our vets. We take care of our vets. But we've rebuilt our military. The job that we've done, and I'll tell you something, some people say maybe the most important. By the end of the first term, I'll have approximately 300 federal judges and Court of Appeals judges, 300, and hopefully 3 great Supreme Court justices. That is a record, the likes of which very few people, and you know one of the reasons I'll have so many judges? because President Obama and him left me 128 judges to fill. When you leave office, you don't leave any judges. That's like you just don't do that. They left 128 openings, and if I were a member of his party, because they have a little different philosophy, I'd say if you left us 128 openings, you can't be a good president, you can't be a good vice president. But I want to thank you because it gives us almost, it'll probably be above that number by the end of this term. 300 judges, it's a record.
Looking at both your records, why should voters elect you president as opposed to President Trump? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Under this president, we become weaker, sicker, poorer, more divided, and more violent. When I was vice president, we inherited a recession. I was asked to fix it. I did. We left him a booming economy, and he caused the recession. With regard to being weaker, the fact is that I've gone head-to-head with Putin and made it clear to him we're not going to take any of his stuff. He's Putin's puppy. He still refuses to even say anything to Putin about the bounty on the heads of American soldiers.
Your son got $3.5 million.
And by the way, my son...
Wait a minute. Mr. President, your campaign agreed to both sides would get 2-minute answers uninterrupted. Well, your side agreed to it, and why don't you observe what your campaign agreed to as a ground rule, okay, sir?
He never keeps his word. Can you add
No,
back
I'm not asking. That was a rhetorical question.
Can you
Go
add
ahead,
back
sir.
30 seconds?
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
you may have.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, thirdly, we're poor. The billionaires have gotten much more wealthy by a tune of over $300 to $400 billion more just since COVID. You in the home, you got less. You're in more trouble than you were before. In terms of being more violent, when we were in office, there were 15% less violence in America than there is today. He's president of the United States. It's on his watch. And with regard to more divided, the nation can't stay divided. We can't be this way. And speaking of my son, the way you talk about the military, the way you talk about them being losers and being and just being suckers, my son was in Iraq. He spent a year there. He got the Bronze Star. He got the Conspicuous Service Medal. He was not a loser. He was a patriot, and the people left behind there were heroes.
Really?
And I resent.
Are you talking
like
about
hell.
Hunter? Are you talking about Hunter?
I'm talking about my son, Bo Biden. You're talking about.
I don't know Bo. I know Hunter.
Yeah,
Hunter
got Bo.
Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. He
for
wasn't dishonorably.
cocaine use. And he didn't have a job until you became vice president. And once you
None of
became
that
vice
is
president,
true.
he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
That is simply
and various
not
other places.
true.
He
My
made
son,
a fortune.
my son,
and he didn't have a job.
My son, like a lot of people we know at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's fixed it. He's worked on it, and I'm proud of him.
But why
I'm
was he
proud of
given
my
tens
son.
of millions
All
of
right.
But he
dollars?
wasn't given
All right.
tens of
He
millions
was
of
given
dollars. That
tens
is
of
totally,
millions of
that's
dollars.
been totally discredited.
We've already been
Totally discredited.
We've already been through this. I think the American people would rather hear about more substantial
So do I.
subjects. Well, you know, as the moderator, sir, I'm going to make a
I know, but when
judgment call
somebody
here.
gets $3.5 million
Okay, right.
from the
Let's talk
mayor
about-
of Moscow,
let's talk
That is
about-
not
I think
true.
it's a terrible
That
thing.
report is totally
Why did he get
discredited.
it?
I
Mitt
think,
Romney on that committee said it wasn't worth taxpayers' money, that report. It was written for political reasons.
you know, I'd like to talk about climate change.
So would I.
Okay. The forest fires in the West are raging now. They have burned millions of acres. They have displaced hundreds of thousands of people. When state officials there blame the fires on climate change, Mr. President, you said, I don't think the science knows. Over your 4 years, you have pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord. You have rolled back a number of Obama environmental records. What do you believe about the science of climate change? And what will you do in the next 4 years to confront it?
I want crystal clean water and air. I want beautiful, clean air. We have now the lowest carbon. If you look at our numbers right now, we are doing phenomenally. But I haven't destroyed our businesses. Our businesses aren't put out of commission. If you look at the Paris Accord, it was a disaster from our standpoint. And people are actually very happy about what's going on because our businesses are doing well. As far as the fires are concerned, you need forest management in addition to everything else. the forest floors are loaded up with trees, dead trees that are years old, and they're like tinder, and leaves and everything else. You drop a cigarette in there, the whole forest burns down. You've got to have forest management.
What do you
You've got to have
believe?
cuts.
What do you believe about the science of climate change, sir?
I believe that we have to do everything we can to have immaculate air, immaculate water, and do whatever else we can that's good. You know, we're planting 1 billion trees, the Billion Tree Project, and it's very
You
exciting
believe
for a lot of people.
that human pollution, greenhouse gas emissions contributes to the global warming of this
I think
planet?
a lot of things do, but I think to an extent, yes. I think to an extent, yes. But I also think we have to do better management of our forests. Every year, I get the call, California's burning. California's burning. If that was cleaned, if you had forest management, good forest management, you wouldn't be getting those calls. You know, in Europe, they have forest cities. They're called forest cities. They maintain their forests. They manage their forests. I was with the head of a major country. It's a forest city. He said, sir, we have trees that are far more, they ignite much easier than California. There shouldn't be that problem. I spoke with the governor about it. I'm getting along very well with the governor. But I said, you know, at some point, you can't every year have hundreds of thousands of acres of land just burned to the ground.
Sir,
that's burning down because of a lack of
But
management.
sir, if you believe in the science of climate change, why have you rolled back the Obama Clean Power Plan, which limited carbon emissions in power plants? Why have you relaxed?
Because it was driving energy prices through the sky.
Why have you relaxed fuel economy standards that are going to create more pollution from cars
Well,
and
not
trucks?
really, because what's happening is the car is much less expensive and it's a much safer car, and you're talking about a tiny difference. And then what would happen, because of the cost of the car, you would have at least double and triple the number of cars purchased. We have the old slugs out there that are 10, 12 years old. If you did that, the car would be safer. It would be much cheaper by
But
$3,500.
in the case of California, they've simply
No, but you
ignored
would take
your
a lot of cars
rollback.
off the market because people would be able to afford a car. Now, and by the way, we're going to see how that turns out. But a lot of people agree with me, many people. The car has gotten so expensive because they have computers all over the place for an extra little bit of gasoline. And and I'm okay with electric cars too. I think I'm all for electric cars. I've given big incentives for electric cars. But what they've done in California is just crazy.
Vice President Biden, I'd like you to respond to the president's climate change record, but I also want to ask you about a concern. You proposed $2 trillion in green jobs. You talk about new limits, not abolishing, but new limits on fracking, ending the use of fossil fuels to generate electricity by 2035, and zero net emission of greenhouse gases by 2050. The president says a lot of these things would tank the economy and cost millions of jobs.
He's absolutely wrong, number one. Number two, if in fact, during our administration, the Recovery Act, I was in charge, able to bring down the cost of renewable energy to cheaper than or as cheap as coal and gas and oil. Nobody's going to build another coal-fired plant in America. No one's going to build another oil-fired plant in America. They're going to move to renewable energy, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that we are able to take the federal fleet and turn it into a fleet that's run on their electric vehicles. Making sure that we can do that, we're going to put 500,000 charging stations and all of the highways that we're going to be building in the future. We're going to build an economy that, in fact, is going to provide for the ability of us to take 4 million buildings and make sure that they, in fact, are weatherized in a way that, in fact, they'll emit significantly less gas and oil because the heat will not be going out. There's so many things that we can do now to create thousands and thousands of jobs. We can get to net zero in terms of energy production by 2035. Not only not costing people jobs, creating millions of good paying jobs, not $15 an hour, but prevailing wage, by having a new infrastructure that in fact is green. And the first thing I will do, I will rejoin the Paris Accord. I will join the Paris Accord because with us out of it, look what's happening. It's all falling apart. And talk about someone who has no relationship with foreign policy. Brazil, the rainforests of Brazil are being torn down, are being ripped down. More carbon is absorbed in that rainforest than every bit of carbon that's emitted in the United States. Instead of doing something about that, I would be gathering up and making sure we had the countries of the world coming up with $20 billion and say, here's $20 billion, stop tearing down the forest. And if you don't, then you're going to have significant economic consequences.
What about the argument that President Trump basically says that you have to balance environmental interests and economic interests, and he's drawn his line?
Well, he hadn't drawn a line. He still, for example, he wants to make sure that methane's not a problem. You can now emit more methane without it being a problem. Methane. This is a guy who says that you don't have to have mileage standards for automobiles that exist now. This is a guy who says that, well, the fact that it's all true. And here's the deal.
He's talking about the Green New Deal, and it's not $2 billion or $20 billion, as you said. It's $100 trillion.
I'm talking about
where they want to rip down buildings
and
rebuild the building.
No,
it's the dumbest, most ridiculous. Where airplanes are out of business, where two-car systems are out, where they want to take out the cows too. That's not true either, right? This is a $100 trillion.
Look,
that's more money than our country could make in 100 years if we're
not
going
the case.
All right, let me
destroy our
because I
country.
actually, wait a minute, sir. I actually have studied your plan, and it includes upgrading 4 million buildings, weatherizing 2 million homes over 4 years, building 1.5 million energy-efficient homes. So the question becomes, the president is saying, I think some people who support the president would say that sounds like it's going to cost a lot of money and hurt the economy.
What it's going to do is going to create thousands and millions of jobs, good-paying jobs.
Let him finish, sir.
He doesn't know how to do that.
$100 billion.
The fact is, it's going to create millions of good-paying jobs, and these tax incentives for people to weatherize, which he wants to get rid of. It's going to make the economy much safer. Look how much we're paying now to deal with the hurricanes. By the way, he has an answer for hurricanes. He said maybe we should drop a nuclear weapon on them. They may.
I never said that at all.
He did say.
You made it up.
And here's the deal.
You make up.
We are going to be in a position where we can create hard, good jobs by making sure the environment is clean and we all are in better shape. We spend billions of dollars now, on floods, hurricanes, rising seas. We're in real trouble. Look what's happening just in the Midwest with these storms that come through and wipe out entire sections and counties in Iowa. That didn't happen before. They're because of global warming. We make up 15% of the world's problem. But the rest of the world, we've got to get them to come along. That's why we have to get back into the Paris Accord.
All right, gentlemen.
Wait a minute, Chris. So why didn't he do it for 47 years? You were vice president. Why didn't you get the world? China sends up real dirt into the air. Russia does. India does. They all do. We're supposed to be good. And by the way, he made a couple of statements. The Green New Deal is $100 trillion.
That is
not
not
$20
my
billion.
plan.
That's
the Green
New
you want to
rebuild every
is
building.
Not my plan.
I want to rebuild every.
If he knew anything about, if he knew anything
he made a
about,
statement about the military. He said I said something about the military. He and his friends made it up, and then they went with it. I never said it.
Okay.
That is
what
not
he
true.
did
Sir,
is he
you're done in
said
this segment.
he called the military
Vice President,
stupid bastards.
I
and he
did
said
not
it on
say
tape.
that.
He said
Mr.
stupid bastards.
Please,
He
sir,
said it.
stop.
I would never
I
say
would
that.
Play
to the
it.
military.
Play it.
Go ahead,
You're
Mr.
on
Vice
tape.
President. Answered his final question.
The final question is, I can't remember which of all his rantings.
I'm having a little trouble myself, but and about the economy and about this question of what it's going to cost.
The economy.
I mean, the Green New Deal and the idea of what your environmental changes will do.
The Green New Deal will pay for itself as we move forward. We're not going to build plants that, in fact, are great polluting plants.
So do you support the Green New Deal?
Pardon me?
You support?
No, I don't support the Green New Deal.
You don't? Oh, well, that's a big statement.
I
That means
support
you
the
just
Biden.
lost the radical left.
I
Done.
support
you
the
don't.
Biden plan that I put forward.
Okay.
The Biden plan, which is different than what he calls the radical Green New Deal.
All right, gentlemen, final segment, election integrity. As we meet tonight, millions of Americans are receiving mail-in ballots or going to vote early. How confident
should we be that this will be a fair election? And what are you prepared to do over the next 5+ weeks, because it'll not only be to Election Day, but also counting some ballots, mail-in ballots after Election Day? What are you prepared to do to reassure the American people that the next president will be the legitimate winner of this election? In this final segment, Mr. Vice President, you go first.
Prepared to let people vote. They should go to iwillvote.com, decide how they're going to vote, when they're going to vote, and what means by which they're going to vote. His own Homeland Security Director, and as well as the FBI Director, says there is no evidence at all that mail-in ballots are a source of being manipulated and cheating. They said that. The fact is that there are going to be millions of people because of COVID that are going to be voting by mail-in ballots, like he does, by the way. He sits behind the Resolute desk and sends his ballot to Florida, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that those people who want to vote in person are able to vote because enough poll watchers are there to make sure they can socially distance. The polls are open on time, and the polls stay open until the votes are counted. And this is all about trying to dissuade people from voting because he's trying to scare people into thinking that it's not going to be legitimate. Show up and vote. You will determine the outcome of this election. Vote, vote, vote. If you're able to vote early in your state, vote early. If you're able to vote in person, vote in person. Vote whatever way is the best way for you, because he cannot stop you from being able to determine the outcome of this election. And in terms of whether or not when the votes are counted, and they're all counted, that will be accepted. If I win, that will be accepted. If I lose, that'll be accepted. But by the way, if in fact he says he's not sure what he's going to accept, well, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter, because if we get the votes, it's going to be all over. He's going to go. He can't stay in power. It won't happen. It won't happen. So vote. Just make sure you understand you have it in your control to determine what this country is going to look like the next 4 years. Is it going to change, or you get 4 more years of these lies?
Mr. President, 2 minutes.
So when I listened to Joe talking about a transition, there's been no transition from when I won. I won that election. And if you look at crooked Hillary Clinton, if you look at all of the different people, there was no transition, because they came after me trying to do a coup. They came after me spying on my campaign. They started from the day I won, and even before I won, from the day I came down the escalator with our First Lady. They were a disaster. They were a disgrace to our country. And we've caught them. We've caught them all. We've got it all on tape. We've caught them all. And by the way, you gave the idea for the Logan Act against General Flynn. You better take a look at that, because we caught you in a sense, and President Obama was sitting in the office. He knew about it too. So don't tell me about a free transition. As far as the ballots are concerned, it's a disaster. A solicited ballot, okay, solicited is okay. You're soliciting, you're asking, they send it back, you send it back. I did that. If you have an unsolicited, they're sending millions of ballots all over the country. There's fraud. They found them in creeks. They found some with the name Trump, just happened to have the name Trump just the other day in a waste paper basket. They're being sent all over the place. They sent 2 in a Democrat area. They sent out 1,000 ballots. Everybody got 2 ballots. This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen. The other thing, it's nice on November 3rd, you're watching and you see who won the election. And I think we're going to do well, because people are really happy with the job we've done. But you know what? We won't know. We might not know for months, because these ballots are going to be all over. Take a look at what happened in Manhattan. Take a look at what happened in New Jersey. Take a look at what happened in Virginia and other places. They're not losing 2%, 1%, which, by the way, is too much. An election could be won or lost with that. They're losing 30 and 40%. It's a fraud, and it's a shame. And can you imagine where they say you have to have your ballot in by November 10th? November 10th. That means that's 7 days after the election, in theory, should have been announced.
Okay.
We have major states with that.
Sir,
all run by Democrats.
2 minutes is 2 minutes.
All run by Democrats. It's
President
a fraud.
Trump,
It's a rigged election.
you're going to be able to continue. You have been charging for months that mail-in balloting is going to be a disaster. You say it's rigged, that it's going to lead to fraud. But in 2018, in the last midterm election, 31 million people voted mail-in voting. That was a quarter, more than a quarter of all the voters that year cast their ballots by mail. Now that millions of mail-in ballots have gone out, what are you going to do about it? And are you counting on the Supreme Court
including a Justice Barrett, to settle any dispute?
Yeah, I think I'm counting on them to look at the ballots, definitely. I don't think I hope we don't need them in terms of the election itself. But for the ballots, I think so. Because what's happening is incredible. I read today, where at least 1% of the ballots for 2016 were invalidated. They take them, we don't like them, we don't like them.
But what are you going to do about it if there are millions of ballots going out right now?
What you do is you go and vote. You do a solicited ballot, and that's okay, or you go and vote.
I'm asking you about the fact that millions of people...
You go and vote. You go and vote,
but
like
what I'm
they
saying is, what are you
like they
gonna do
used
about
to
the
in
fact
the
that
old.
millions of people...
You either do, Chris, a solicited ballot where you're sending it in, they're sending it back, and you're sending. They have mailmen with lots of it. Did you see what's going on? Take a look at West Virginia. Mailmen selling the ballots. They're being sold. They're being dumped in rivers. This is a horrible thing for our country.
There is no.
This is not.
There is no.
This is not going to end well.
There is
Okay.
no
This
evidence
is
of that.
not going
Vice
to
President
end well.
Biden-
5 states
fact,
have had
go ahead,
mail-in
sir.
ballots for the last decade or more. 5, including 2 Republican states. And you don't have to solicit the ballot. It's sent to you. It's sent to your home. What they're saying is that it has to be a postmark by election day. If it doesn't get in till the 7th, 8th, 9th, it still should be counted. He's just afraid of counting the votes because
You're
he knows
wrong.
the outcome.
You're wrong.
I want to continue with you on
I
this,
love
Vice
counting the
President
votes.
Biden. because
Chris, he's so wrong when he makes a statement like that.
Excuse me, Vice President Biden, the biggest problem, in fact, over the years with mail-in voting has not been fraud historically. It has been that sizable numbers, sometimes hundreds of thousands of ballots are thrown out because they have not been properly filled out, or there is some other irregularity, or they missed the deadline. So the question I have is, are you concerned that the Supreme Court with a Justice Barrett will settle any dispute?
I'm concerned that any court would settle this because here's the deal. When you get a ballot and you fill it out, you're supposed to have an affidavit. If you didn't know, you have someone say that this is me. You should be able to, if in fact you can verify that's you before the ballot is thrown out, that's sufficient to be able to count the ballot because someone made a mistake and not dotting the correct I. Who they voted for, testify, say who they voted for, say it's you, that is totally legitimate.
All right.
Excuse me, Chris, when you
I
have
a final-
80 million ballots
Gentlemen, I have a final
sent in
question.
and swamping the system, you know it can't be done. You know it can't, and already
All
there's
right,
been
so now
fraud.
Mail service delivers
Wait a minute, gentlemen, and the
185
final
million
question
pieces of mail a
is,
day.
in
million
8
ballots.
states, we can keep talking. In 8
it's a
states,
disgrace.
election workers are prohibited, currently by law, 8 states, from even beginning to process ballots, even take them out of the envelopes and flatten them until Election Day. That means that it's likely, because there's going to be a huge increase in mail-in balloting, that we are not going to know on election night who the winner is, that it could be days, it could be weeks.
Could be months.
Until we find out who the new president is. So first for you, sir, finally for the Vice President, I hope neither of you will interrupt the other. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm during this extended period, not to engage in any civil unrest, and will you pledge tonight that you will not declare victory until the election has been independently certified? President Trump, you go first.
I'm urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, because that's what has to happen. I am urging them to do it. As you know, today there was a big problem. In Philadelphia, they went in to watch. They're called poll watchers, a very safe, very nice thing. They were thrown out. They weren't allowed to watch. You know why? Because bad things happen in Philadelphia, bad things. And I am urging my people. I hope it's going to be a fair election. If it's a fair election, I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that. And I'll tell you what,
does that
from
mean,
a common sense,
does that mean you're going to tell your people to take to the street?
It means you have a fraudulent election. You're sending out 80 million ballots. They're not equipped to. These people aren't equipped to handle it. Number one. Number two, they cheat. They cheat. Hey, they found ballots in a waste paper basket 3 days ago, and they all had the name military ballots. They were military. They all had the name Trump on them.
Vice President
you think
Biden,
that's good?
Vice President Biden, final question for you. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm while the vote is counted, and will you pledge not to declare victory until the election is independently certified?
Yes, and here's the deal. They count the ballots, as you pointed out. some of these ballots in some states can't even be opened until Election Day. And if there's thousands of ballots, it's going to take time to do it. And by the way, our military, they've been voting by ballots since the end of the Civil War, in effect. And that's what's going to happen. Why was it not? Why is it for them somehow not fraudulent? It's the same process. It's honest. No one has established at all that there is fraud related to mail-in ballots, that somehow it's a fraudulent process.
It's already been established. Take a look at Carolyn Maloney's race
I
in
asked
Manhattan.
you had an opportunity to
Look at
respond.
Carolyn Monroe.
Go ahead.
They have no idea what
Vice
happened.
President Biden, go ahead.
He has no idea what he's talking about. Here's the deal. The fact is, I will accept it, and he will too. You know why? Because once the winner is declared, after all the ballots are counted, all the votes are counted, that'll be the end of it. That'll be the end of it. And if it's me, in fact, fine. If it's not me, I'll support the outcome. And I'll be a president not just for the Democrats. I'll be a president for Democrats and Republicans. And this guy,
I want to
in
see
fact,
an honest
Okay,
ballot count.
gentlemen, you say that's the end of it? This is the end of this
An
debate.
honest ballot count.
We're
And
going to
I think
leave
he
it
does
there.
too.
To be continued as in more debates as we go on. President Trump, Vice President Biden, it's been an interesting hour and a half. I want to thank you both for participating in the first of 3 debates that you have agreed to engage in. We want to thank Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic for hosting this event. The next debate, sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates, will be 1 week from tomorrow, October 7th, at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City. The 2 vice presidential nominees, Vice President Mike Pence and Senator Kamala Harris, will debate at 9 p.m. Eastern that night. We hope you watch. Until then, thank you and good night. Thank you.
Oh, let's see. There we go. There was the first presidential debate of the 2020 president election on that, and man, was it a raucous, wild affair. Joe Biden and President Donald J. Trump went at it toe-to-toe, trading jabs back and forth. Joe Biden is a complete fraud. There is no other way around it. You idiot. Let's take the last example for you were on there. He talks about military ballots, and they've been doing it for many years. Exactly right. They've been doing absentee ballots, Joe Biden. That is much different than a mail-in ballot. If you cannot understand that simple concept, you shouldn't even be allowed anywhere near any kind of office. I don't care if it's sewer cleaning commissioner to the president of the United States. You're deceiving the people willfully, unequivocally, just on practically everything you said. For 47 years, you've tried to drive this country into the ground. You, with your corrupt $15 million of speaker fees you got after you left as vice president, how come you didn't refund that? How come you didn't donate $13.5 million of it and send it back to the federal government? You know there's an account over there that you can send money to the federal government. They will willingly accept it. You didn't send a dime because you're a lying piece of crap. And you're two-faced, hypocrite, lying, whatever. Calling the President of the United States a clown. You showed you had no respect for the office of President of the United States, no matter who's sitting in it. That's the career of Joe Biden, with his I'm going to get chains, I'm going to whip your ass to 70-year-old men, and everything else shows what a despicable human being you are. And you have been, and are continuing to be. Nothing can be further from the truth than the amount of damage Joe Biden and his ilk have done. Just like when he was asked the direct question, did you call the governors and mayors of Oregon and tell them to stop He would not answer the question because the answer to that question is no. He said Antifa is not a organization. He supported Black Lives Matters, Antifa, and everyone else. And if the man does not know the difference between a mail-in ballot and an absentee ballot, that right there should be proof positive that either he's lying or stupid. Take your pick. He said, I am the Democratic Party right now. The moderator, Chris Wallace, even pointed that out later on in the debate. If that is not, Carla Castro, the height of arrogance and narcissistic behavior, I don't know what is. The Democratic Party is not Joe Biden. Never has, never will be. I don't know how many millions of people there are in it, but they are not him. He may be nominated as President of the United States, but that doesn't make him the Democratic Party. That means they gave him the right to run under their name for President of the United States. And again, to put yourself up on that type of high horse pedestal, that I am the Democratic Party right now. How? Argue that one. And again, just like you said, just like I said, Joe Biden never pulled one military person or voted for it ever in his 47-year career to pull troops out. Donald Trump has been bringing our troops back and stopped spending stupid money, trillions, tens of trillions of dollars we have poured into foreign conflicts and building nation building across Democrat and Republicans across the board. You know the last guy who pulled out troops was Ronald Reagan in Lebanon. The two clown Bushes and Obama and the odious Bill Clinton, both of them, the scurrilous Barack Obama. His presidency was a frickin' disaster. It was more about government control. He destroyed our banking system and put it under 5 banks. That's 90% of it. He nationalized car companies and everything else. He did not let the free market work. And you know what? Your electric car dream does not work without nuclear power. Obama was for it, but he didn't do a damn thing about it because he knew what was right. Joe Biden, the only way electric cars work is with nuclear power. Go look at France and Sweden. Go look at everywhere else. It damn near killed Germany with your pipe dream of the Biden plan. We already know how that story works. And you know what? They're buying coal and natural gas from Russia, so their people can have air conditioning, refrigerators, and everything else, because the exact, almost to a T, your plan damn near killed Germany. They shut down nuclear plants while Sweden and France built them, and you know what? That's, if electric cars are going to work, that's where they are, and that's where they do. You couldn't build enough solar panels or store enough energy and batteries to run a city, much less a country or a world, you complete yahoo. He said, I am for the end of energy production. Quote from Joe Biden. Energy production is not only natural gas or oil or nuclear power. That is wind, solar, and everything else. The man wants to return you to the Stone Ages, and that's what he said. So I want to end energy production. That includes it all. It was not a misstatement. Call it out of what he said and how he said it. He disrespected the offices of President of the United States. He's had a 47-year career of screwing this country over. Bad policy, closing schools, we put up. And we will put it up again. The headline in USA Today, published September 28th at 6:01 a.m. Florida schools reopened en masse, but a surge in coronavirus did not follow, a USA Today analysis finds. Yet the man wants to keep schools closed today. He does not even know the Constitution of the United States, blaming Trump. Trump cannot, Trump, under one way, can open up this country, and the only way that is to declare martial law. Is that what you want, Joe Biden? Because Andrew Cuomo, who sent 5,000, governor of New York, Democrat, who sent 5,000 nursing home patients who were in the hospital back to nursing homes in the most vulnerable areas. Same thing we were doing in LA and California and everything else. They killed people knowingly. Tell me they didn't. Show me the evidence they didn't. They knew that those people were vulnerable. They sent them back into their deathbeds, and other people also. You know damn well you called Trump a racist. You and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck E. Schumer and practically everybody else called Trump a racist for shutting down the travel from China in January. Even Fauci said that was the single best thing that would ever happen. Yet you say Trump caused this and all the deaths and yada, 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 when there is no empirical evidence that changing anything, wearing masks, social distancing works or has worked, because we've run it everywhere else. And explain to me Peru, Joe Biden. They had the military shutting down their country, and they have the highest death rate per capita in the world. Just like Florida schools, and USA Today punched it up. Here it is. Florida schools reopened en masse, but a surge in coronavirus did not follow, a USA Today analysis finds. Them are called facts. We have real-world facts to go by. And you continue to sit up there and lie and deny because you're a power-hungry, arrogant SOB. And you proved it when you said, I am the Democratic Party now. There is no better arrogant piece of crap, narcissistic, a-hole statement than that. They are not him. He may be, and if you go by that, and if you're intellectually honest about it, there's no other conclusion to make. Again, Joe Biden answered the question. Why didn't you call them governor and the mayor of Portland, Oregon, and the state of Oregon and say, knock this crap off? Because you wanted it to go on. Because you thought it might raise you to President of the United States. You wouldn't know energy production if it was coming out your rear end. You would not know how to do electric cars because you probably never built a damn thing in your life with your hands or engineered it. Show me where you've engineered or built a building or done that or developed anything. Because you're just a jaw-running, anti-American. Anyone who disrespects the office of President of the United States on the stage and calls him a clown is disrespecting America and the office of the President of the United States while he is sitting in office. You might not like him. You might not vote for him. You might think he doesn't do... You can't wait till the day he's out, but he's still your president, Joe Biden, and give him and the office of the presidency the respect that deserves. You couldn't even do that. Again, notwithstanding what his kids have done, tell me why you needed $15 million to give us some speeches after you were vice president. It's absolutely incredible sometimes what we go through on this. But like I said, man, that was the most contentious debate ever in president. Maybe going to go down in history as that. Well, you can never say never. There could be one more. But there wasn't one with more fireworks than this one today. And we'll see if Joe Biden holds. He said there's 3 more debates or 2 more coming up. They agreed to do 3. There was number 1. So we'll see if they happen. We'll see what happens after that, and then we're all going to vote, hopefully, by November 3rd, and we won't have the potential fraud that's coming up on that. It's absolutely incredulous on that. We'll cover this all tomorrow on IE Newswire Daily, and starting live at 5 on YouTube and Facebook, and then we roll into the Mighty Met 1490 KMET. So, until our next broadcast, see ya!